3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
To infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Live from the place yet not overly ostentatious studios of the Infinity Sports Network here in beautiful New York City, sitting on top of the 10th floor of 345 Hudson Street. Welcome on in to, of course, a Football Friday edition of the Zach Gelb Show across all of our great local Infinity Sports Network affiliates, Sirius XM, Channel 158, the free Odyssey app, and, of course, streaming live on YouTube. 855-212-4227 is the number to jump on in. That's 855-212-4227. You could always get at me on Instagram, where I'm straight flexing, or via the good old cesspool of Twitter, X, at Zach Gelb. That is ZACHGELB. I'm in a phenomenal mood today. I'll explain why in just a second. But first, let me tell you that Tarik Skubal, who is expected to win the Cy Young, is slated to join us coming up 40 minutes from now. Danny Kannell, we'll talk some college football with him at 4 p.m. Eastern time, and then we'll do some NFL picks with Mets radio announcer Pat McCarthy at 5:20 p.m. Eastern, 2:20 p.m. Pacific. Stuart Kovacs here, Moist Mike here as well. We're rocking and rolling, jamming it all the way up until 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific time. I'm in a great mood today. So a buddy of mine was celebrating his birthday. His girlfriend had to work, so I got a call. Hey, you're one of my friends that doesn't have to go into work later. Would you want to go to Carbone in New York City? And that's the only reason today that I'm in a good mood. Nothing else. What happened last night? I don't know. Maybe we'll get to it in a few seconds. But I had the spicy rigatoni alla vodka. I had lobster ravioli, an incredible Caesar salad. I had some meatballs. I had some baked clams, some mozzarella, and some salami to start. The meal was sensational. And by the way, last night, I was celebrating and feasting on the tears of the Milwaukee Brewers. That was unbelievable last night. And I know I'll get some jackasses that will reach out to me. Oh, it's another New York bloviating talk show host, a blowhard, that all he does is talk about New York sports. Well, then you don't listen to the show. Because I'll brag a little bit. We've had a good week this week. We had Mark Stoops on. He's the head football coach of Kentucky. We had Kalen DeBoer on. He's the head football coach of Alabama. We had Ashton Genty on. He is the star running back at Boise State. We had on one of the great baseball players of all time in David Ortiz, the Red Sox legend, and the 3-time World Series champion. So we hit on a lot of markets. We talk about things that aren't just New York sports related. But forgive me, and I'm not even apologizing. If you want an apology, screw you. Change the dial, tune into some other dope that does this for a living, all right? Because last night, every sports fan has had a moment like that. A moment of greatness if you're a Mets fan, and then just a moment of you having a blank stare, sitting on your couch like you don't know what even hit you if you are a Brewers fan because you can't believe that your team just lost the game and that your team snatched defeat from the jaws of victory. Last night was something so special. So we know the Mets won game one. We know the heroics that happened earlier in the week on Monday up against the Atlanta Braves. And I said this, in my 30 years of living, as I am getting a little bit older, you can see by the gray hairs. In my 30 years of living, there was no greater Mets victory than the one I saw on Monday with the heroics led by Francisco Lindor. That was the number one Met victory of my life, which is kind of sad, but it's also true. I don't really think you could debate it. What happened last night, though, was even better. Jose Quintana, let's not forget about him. Unlikely stud in that game. I know he's a starting pitcher. He went 6 innings. Quintana allowing a goose egg. And then they bring in Jose Butto, who allowed 2 home runs. And when the first home run left the building, I was like, oh my goodness gracious, we're wasting this Quintana start. And then when you had back-to-back jacks, I'm like, oh my goodness gracious, the season is probably over. And I had a dilemma all year. And my dilemma was Pete Alonso. I'm a huge fan of Pete Alonso. I have stayed loyal for a long time with Pete Alonso. Just even 3 weeks ago, I was praising his glove on WFAN in New York, and people called up and they said, Zach, we don't want to hear about his glove. How about his bat? And I know you look at his stats if you don't watch the Mets, and you may say, oh, he's having a good season. But if you watch these games and grind through these games like I do with this baseball team that usually rips your heart out, you know Pete Alonso has not had a really good season, regardless of what his stats have said. And there's a contract issue. He turned down a big deal last summer. And I think there was a lot of pressure on Pete Alonso, and it was clearly getting to him. Because there are moments, there are little things that happen, like in game 2 when he trips over his bat that cost the Mets a run, that you can't even explain outside of, okay, this guy just can't step up and deliver in a big pressure moment with the entire city waiting for him to do something in a big spot. And there were moments in this series where he had guys on base in scoring position and Pete Alonso couldn't come through. And we saw Pete Alonso drop a ball. We saw those Milwaukee Brewers fans, which I understand. I do the same thing if it was the opposition in front of me, laughing in the face of Pete Alonso. And it felt like this really good Met was going to see his time come to a close in a horrific ending where when Quintana did his job, Lindor had for a while the only 2 hits that the Mets had as a team, that even though this was a special year, and this was a year, even if they didn't come back last night, this was a moment where you kind of thought to yourself, all right, they overachieve, but Pete Alonso is showing you why they don't have to give him this ridiculous, lucrative contract. So it goes to the top of the 9th. Lindor, leadoff walk. And I'm thinking to myself, all right, fine start, but I'm not letting myself get to a point where I'm adamant or I'm thinking that they're going to go tie the game. Forget about winning the game. Just tie the game. They're down 2 runs. And then Nimmo gets a base hit. And when Nimmo gets a base hit, you got first and third, Lindor on third, Nimmo on first with 1 out. That's the moment Zach Gelb went from basically in the couch where I am just sitting back and I do not want to move to where I sit up and I get to the edge of my seat. And I go, Pete, if it's not happening now, it's never happening. And this could have been Pete Alonso's final at bat as a New York Met. That's what I'm thinking. And I apologize to my neighbors because we'll play you the call in just a second. But when Pete Alonso hits a 3-run home run, I let out a scream in my apartment that if you were my next door neighbor, you would have thought someone died in my apartment and I just witnessed it in front of me. That is how loud I was screaming. And then I went to my phone because I understand what I do for a living. And sometimes people want to see that initial reaction. And I tried to speak. And I think I said something along the lines of, I can't believe it. And then I froze. I couldn't say another word. My jaw locked up and my eyes were about to just explode. If that is how my life would have ended on that spot and I got dragged up to heaven, it would have been worth it. Because Pete Alonso, who I've been begging to do something, finally came through. And not only that, it's funny. I really do believe 2 people giving up on Pete Alonso helped that home run go over the right field wall last night. Not to get like all Angels in the Outfield movie on you, but the amazing Mets, I think, benefited from 2 people. One, I will even say it. Maybe I have become a mush because I've been giving Pete Alonso the benefit of the doubt, and then I saw Frank the Tank say, who I love Frank the Tank from Barstool Sports, that Pete Alonso is a bum. And then I responded to that tweet in like the 7th or the 8th inning saying, I'll take fumbling the bag for 100, Alex. And it was the post of Pete Alonso turning down what was like a 7-year contract, $160 million. So I put that out there. And then also, I don't know how many people follow Hot Take Hickey, Ryan_Hickey3, but yesterday we talked about Hickey's tweet. And Hickey's tweet said this, and I said this on the air yesterday. If Alonso hits a home run in this game, he is truly worth the money because then he's fought through the powers of the Hickey Hex. And Hickey tweeted out, I have a gut feeling that Pete Alonso is the savior tonight for the Mets. In these do-or-die games, it's really the player you most suspect that's the hero. Tonight has Pete's name written all over it. Now, if Hickey would have just stopped there, Hickey could take his bows today. Hickey, we would all genuflect to him and say, all hail Hot Take Hickey, you're our leader. But he tweeted out at 8:54 p.m. Eastern Time, I have conceded this stance. Pete is broken beyond repair. Hickey saved the Mets season. He has woken up. Pete Alonso has returned. All because of, I think, your boy calling him out, and then also Hot Take Hickey waving the white flag on the Pete Alonso's going to do something campaign. But that was unbelievable. It really was. And you know what's crazy? I was talking to Sal Licata, who does a show on SNY and WFAN in New York. And I said to him, after Pete hit the home run, I had to go back and watch the rest of the game. And I didn't have a sip of alcohol last night. I didn't have a puff of anything last night. I was completely sober. But I blacked out emotionally after Pete Alonso hit a home run. Like, the only thing I remember is the final out, the double play, when Lindor took the ball, stepped on the bag, and then threw it over to first. And then also Winker slamming his helmet as if he was Rob Gronkowski slamming a football, and he just had his helmet explode in a million pieces. Like, yeah, there's other unsung heroes from that game. I talked about Quintana, Edwin Diaz keeping it a game after Buto was terrible, Peterson coming in and getting 3 outs on 7 pitches. You know, Winker scoring that run at the end, the Marte base hit. Like, there's other moments. But last night, I had to go back and I had to watch the entirety of the 9th inning because I emotionally blacked out when Pete Alonso hit that home run. It was just awesome. And that's a side of sports where if you get that elation, there's nothing like it. Like, I had a buddy on Monday text me, sometimes I wonder if it's worth it dedicating my entire life to sports. And then moments like this happen and I go, yes, it is. And some people that just don't like sports, like, they sometimes say they don't get us. I don't get you. Because it lets you be a kid again. It lets you have fun, and it leads to the magical moment that no one could have seen coming. And those are my favorite moments in sports. When your team is down and out, you're like basically in sports hospice, and you know you're going to get the bad news, and then all of a sudden, the heart starts racing, and you're able to walk out of there not only alive, but on to the next round. And on the other side, if you're a Brewers fan, you know, I don't feel terrible for you today because my team won, but I understand when people say you got to feel terrible for Brewers fans. Because when they hit those back-to-back jacks, even though the game's not over, you think it's over. The only person that didn't think it was over was Bart Winkler. And I may have done something last night that was not so nice. After the game ended, I turned on Bart as he was on the air as the game was ending. And Bart delivered this passionate monologue where he knew that the Brewers were going to lose. So I called up as Pete in Milwaukee and basically danced on the grave of Bart Winkler, who sent me some things in game 2, basically congratulating the Mets on winning, and I thought there was a reverse jinx going on down. But also an unsung hero in the game last night, the Mets play-by-play announcer, Howie Rose. Here is his iconic call of the Pete Alonso 3-run home run that put the Mets in the lead, and the Metsies didn't look back since this blast.
3-1 to Alonso. Williams sets. Here's the pitch. Swinging a fly ball to right field. Pretty well hit. Frelick back at the wall. He jumps. It's gone. He did it. He did it. Pete Alonso with the most memorable home run of his career. Pumps his fist as he rounds second. It's a 3-run homer. He's given the Mets a 3-2 lead. They all pour out of the dugout. Alonso on his way to home plate. They're waiting for him.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Just simply amazing. And you know what? Last night, I had 2 TVs in my living room. I saw the ending of the Falcons-Buccaneers game, but I had to go back and watch that because it was tough to lock into that game knowing what my team just did, as now they're going into Philadelphia to go up against the Phillies and the NLDS. And let me also just say this. You saw how much this was wearing on Pete Alonso and how much he wanted to deliver. Because right away, the minute that ball hit his bat, he knew it was gone. And you thought I let out a scream in my apartment after he hit the home run and I saw the ball go over the right field fence. He let out that scream right away and then gave the chef kiss at first base. And to see his emotion and that boulder that's been on his back all year long finally get ripped off, it wouldn't shock me. I don't know what the Mets are going to do in Philadelphia. I really don't. I don't know what they're going to do in the next series, but nothing would surprise me anymore with this team because they just always find a way. But it really wouldn't surprise me if the monkey is now off Pete Alonso's back and he starts to go on a tear and be the Pete Alonso that we expect him to be in Philadelphia starting tomorrow. But what a moment. What a game. What a victory. And that was bleeping awesome. And that is why I love sports. I watched that home run like all night last night. And then I got up this morning and I played OMG Right Now by Van Halen, Taking Care of Business, New York Groove, Who Let the Dogs Out, How Far We've Come, Piano Man, and that 86 Let's Go Mets song. It's all like Mets theme. I listened to those songs at 32 minutes. I just played it over and over on my speaker today because there's a mood, like in a game like that, it just creates a mood where all you could think about is the game and how awesome it is, and you're just smiling and jumping up and down like a fat kid in a candy store. What a win for the Mets. We'll take a time out on the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. When we come on back, how about primetime Kirk Cousins? We'll get into the Falcons next. Another improbable victory for Kirk and his squad. And also Tarik Skubal is going to join us coming up at 3:40 p.m. Eastern time today. You don't want to miss it. Off and running. Let's go Mets. Let's go Pete Alonso. And what an MLB postseason this has been so far. But first, football is back, and what better way to celebrate than winning some cash with Sleeper Picks? Sleeper Picks is a fantasy game, but you could win real money. Just pick more or less than at least 2 player stats, and if your picks are right, you win. You can pick up to 8 players to win up to 100 times your money. And Sleeper has a couple huge offers to kickstart the football season. For new users, Sleeper will match your first deposit with up to $100 credit to your account. If you've already played, Sleeper's got discounted player projections for you every week of the season. So download the Sleeper app now and use promo code SCORE, that's S-C-O-R-E, and your first deposit will be double with a credit up to $100. What are you waiting for? Download Sleeper today and use code SCORE for a credit up to $100 match on your first deposit. That's code SCORE. Must be 18 years in most states and in state where it's legal. Promo code and other restrictions apply. Visit sleeper.com. Please wager responsibly. Gambling problem, call 1-800-426-2537 for help. Paid for by Blitz Studios.
You're in a 4-minute break. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. 45 seconds remaining. $30 remaining. $15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
You're listening to the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
That's right, OMG. The Mets are off to the NLDS against the Philadelphia Phillies. See, Stu, I have a wedding to go to tomorrow. So the Mets game starts at like 4:08 p.m. Eastern time. The wedding I have, I think it's called for 5 p.m. Eastern time. Now, it's one of my buddies, Jamar, and I told Jamar that there was a chance I couldn't go to the wedding depending on, when I got invited, what the college football schedule was. Like if it was a monster college football weekend, I, couldn't have come to the wedding. So this weekend of college football, let me just say it, it's rather light when you look at it. Like A&M, Missouri is a fine game. Could be the best game of the weekend. Nebraska, Rutgers also a good game as well. But when that's the marquee stuff, it's not as if it was last weekend with Alabama, Georgia, and then also what did transpire with Kentucky and Ole Miss. But you know what happens, Stu? Whenever people say, oh, this weekend of football is kind of pedestrian, the matchups aren't that great, always something crazy does transpire. So tomorrow, I think this is becoming a regular occurrence. I'm going to be that loser at the wedding that is going to have my phone on when the bride is walking down the aisle, getting ready to marry my buddy Jamar. And I just hope nothing crazy happens because here comes the bride. Yeah, there we go, Pete Alonso. How about that? Home run. No, I'll be silent during that, but I will have my phone on and I will have my phone silent and I'll be watching the game. I would have never thought, Stu, in a million years that the Mets would still be playing. Like, when I got that wedding invite, I must have got it in June.
And that's
like that.
when everyone thought they were done.
Yeah.
At that point.
There was, even when they had the London game, the back end of the London game, the second game, and it was a great victory. I was on the air locally on the Fan in New York right after that. And I said, yeah, it's a good win, but this team, even though they show fight, there's still going to be some bad. There'll be some good. But I thought this was like a 500 baseball team. That's what I kind of thought. Going into the year, I thought they were a little bit better than a 500 baseball team, 83, 84 wins. But with how bad this season started, if you would have told me in April or in May or even in June that they would come on back, make the wild card round, and then get into an NLDS up against the Phillies, I would have said, hey, give me whatever you're smoking. That's what I really would have said. That would have just been my honest thoughts. And that's also the great moment about this too, Stu. I love being wrong when it's about my team. It's about other people's teams. Yeah, I don't love being wrong. I pride myself in trying to be right, but, when you do this job, you're usually more wrong than you are right. That team, I went into yesterday thinking they were going to win. I thought it was a coin flip, but I thought the Mets were going to win the game. But I never would have expected when they were down 2-0. Being down 2-0 kind of felt like it was 8-0. And it felt that the game was over. But when he was in the corner, looking like he was about to get knocked out, Pete Alonso, and that was going to be it for the Polar Bear in Queens, the Polar Bear came on back. And the Polar Bear not only came on back, he knocked out the Milwaukee Brewers from the postseason. But you got the baseball postseason and all the heroics there and all the sensational things now we're going to see in the NL and ALDS, and you mix that in with hockey starting today, the NBA is right around the corner, but football, right, starts to get good now. I know that the extension of the preseason sometimes bleeds into October now with how light they do take it in the offseason, but when you get to week 5, you should be able to find a way to move past of some of the misfortune from earlier in the season and some of the sloppy play. And I know that there was sloppy play last night, but how about that high-octane offensive game between the Atlanta Falcons and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, where the Falcons are now 3-2 as they get the victory 36-30 in overtime, and Tampa Bay falls to 3-2. And that's a game where you walk past it and you walk by it and you go, okay, these are clearly the two best teams in the NFC South. This is not anti-Saints like that guy accused me of being earlier in the week. The Saints are not better than the Falcons. The Saints are not better than the Buccaneers. And forget about the Carolina Panthers. But these two teams are the best team in that division. And I did say yesterday, I thought the Falcons needed that game more after their up and down start, where more people were generally praising the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But you look at that game, you know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of the Week 2 contest that I was at in Philadelphia, where once C.J. Gardner-Johnson stuffed, I think it was Bijan Robinson, on that fourth down play, you would have never thought the Eagles would have lost that game. And then the Eagles were matriculating the ball down the field. Saquon Barkley couldn't catch it. They make the field goal, and then boom, 70 yards right down the Eagles' throats. The Atlanta Falcons go, and they score a touchdown with Drake London getting in the end zone. And then Jalen Hurts threw the pick, and the Eagles end up losing that game. And that was like primetime Kirk Cousins. Oh, maybe the monkey is off his back. And then shortly after that, I thought they got robbed by the officials on the no pass interference call, but they did lose that Sunday night football game up against the Kansas City Chiefs, but it was a solid showing. And then last week, they barely, find a way to beat the Saints, and they just beat Younghoe Koo, but this was a big game for them last night. And when the ageless wonder of Levante David makes that interception with 1:52 left in the game on 4th and 15, I thought that was it, right? Maybe you get one chance to get the ball back, but you're down 3, but there's not going to be a lot of time left. And to the credit of the Atlanta Falcons and their defense, and I know you had some penalties too, but they were able to make that go 3 and out, and it only took 30 seconds off the clock because at that time, Atlanta still had all their timeouts. So they get the ball back, and they march in 1:14 down the field. They're lining up or getting ready to kick that game-winning field goal. And if memory serves me right, I think they took a delay of game, too, which pushed them back 5 yards before they had the kick. And Younghoe Koo, who had a great game last week and ends up having a good game this week, he was struggling up until that moment, even though he's made other kicks in the game, but he missed some other kicks, too. And he drilled that 52-yard field goal that gets the game in overtime. And once the Falcons won the toss, in the postseason, it's different. If you go down the field, the other team gets a chance to match if you go down the field and get a touchdown. But in the regular season, you get the ball first, you march down the field and score a touchdown, the game is over. And you know what's wild about that? In Philadelphia, when they needed a drive to go win the game, the Falcons, in a little over a minute, marched down that field, and it was for 70 yards exactly. Where they took over up against the Buccaneers, right, with the new kickoff rule, it was 4 plays, 70 yards in a little over a minute. And we all know how that ended with Hodge still running, probably away from the Buccaneers defenders for 45 yards and the score, and Atlanta wins 36-30. So we used to joke about primetime Kirk Cousins, and that would have a negative connotation, and that would be kind of like the joke. Oh, we're about to make a primetime Kirk Cousins. Here we go. Kirk Cousins this year, in primetime moments, has been really damn good. Even though he wasn't fully healthy up against the Eagles, 20 of 29, 241 yards, 2 touchdowns, and got a win. That was on Monday Night Football. Against the Chiefs, Sunday Night Football, I know they didn't win the game, but they lost to only the Chiefs 22-17, and Kirk, it was 20 of 29, 230 yards, a touchdown and a pick. But if you want to get on him for not winning that game, fine. I don't think that's fair, but that's fine. And then in this one on Thursday Night Football, how about this stat line? When they're honoring Matt Ryan, he breaks Matt Ryan's passing record for most yards in a game for the Atlanta Falcons as he goes 42 of 58 for 509 yards. 509 yards 4 touchdowns and an interception. And that went from Kirk throwing that pick, regardless of what the stats say, the rhetoric around him today would have been, big spot, Kirk couldn't deliver. And then they get the ball back. He goes down the field. Kirk Cousins hits that field goal, or Younghoe Koo kicks that field goal. Don't ask Shannon Sharp to pronounce that name, by the way. And then they get the ball, and then boom, in overtime, they march right down the field, and they are the team that snatched victory out of the jaws of defeat. That was just something. So congratulations to the Falcons. And this is a football team that I don't even think they're playing their best brand of football yet, but they're showing you they could be a really good football team. You know, you got to get more out of the run game, but they were behind you at times, but Bijan Robinson, Algier, really solid. London is a phenomenal player, and even when he did go down, you had other guys step up. Darnell Mooney is having a really solid start to the season. Kyle Pitts had a good game last night as well. And you got some players in that defense in the secondary, led by Jesse Bates and A.J. Terrell and Justin Simmons. And then coming off the edge, obviously, they did acquire Matthew Judon before the season started, and Grady Jarrett is obviously still there. So that's a team. I think that's a win that it just changes the entire outlook, where they're sitting there 3-2, and their next 2 games are the Panthers and the Seahawks. I'm not saying they definitely win both those games, but they should. And if you could be sitting there at 5-2 before that next matchup against the Buccaneers, which would be on right around Halloween on October 27th, then man, you win that game, you put yourself in a position to really go win this division, which that's the objective for the Falcons this year. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. When we come on back, I think he's the preeminent pitcher in Major League Baseball. He's going to win the AL Cy Young, but Tarik Skubal is having a phenomenal year for the Detroit Tigers. And the Tigers, they took down the Astros in a sweep in 2 games in the wild card, and now they're off to Cleveland. Skubal's going to be pitching in Game 2, but they'll have a Game 1 prior to that coming up on Saturday, so we'll spend a few minutes with the ace of the Tigers and I think the best pound-for-pound pitcher in Major League Baseball, Tarik Skubal, next. Update time first. Here is the Act Man, Rich Ackerman.
Infinity Sports Network Sports Flash.
Well, the Texans and Bills is a great matchup Sunday, but it will likely be without some star power, as Houston is not expected to have running back Joe Mixon because of an ankle injury, while Ed Oliver and Austin Johnson are both out for Buffalo. The Giants won't have rookie phenom Malik Neighbors due to a concussion, while Devin Singletary is also doubtful. The Colts' Jonathan Taylor won't play against the Jaguars due to a high ankle sprain. College football takes center stage tonight with a pair of games in the top 25. Oregon hosts Michigan State. The 6th-ranked Ducks are unbeaten and have outscored their last 2 opponents 83-27. Dan Lanning is pumped to be playing in the spotlight in Eugene.
Certainly excited to get back in front of our fans. It's been a while since we've been here, so getting in front of Autzen will be quite the challenge and a good opportunity for us to see where we've improved and continue to get better. Obviously excited to get to play a good Michigan State team, really well coached, do some good things in every phase of the game.
Also tonight, Syracuse takes on UNLV, which is 4-0 and ranked for the first time ever, coming in at number 25 this week. The Twins have parted ways with GM Thad Levine after 8 years and 3 division titles. Right now in the NHL, the Devils have a 3-1 lead over the Sabres in the 3rd. I'm Rich Ackerman.
The Infinity Sports Network is on your smart speaker. All you have to say is play Infinity Sports Network.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining.
4 minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
All righty, we continue. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. Let's go out to the guest line right now. The Tigers have been an incredible story. Now they're off to the ALDS, so they'll have a matchup against the Cleveland Guardians. And now joining us is the best pitcher in Major League Baseball. He is expected to win the AL Cy Young. And that, of course, is Tarik Skubal, kind enough to join us once again on the Zach Gelb Show. Tarik, appreciate the time. Congratulations on all the success. And how you been?
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for having me. It's been a ton of fun, the last couple months.
So kind of take me through, you're in Houston, you pitch great in game one, your team's up 1-0 in the series, you're looking to close out the game in Game 2. When that final out was recorded, just take me through all the elation and how'd you kind of process it?
Yeah, I mean, that 8th inning when we put up 4 after they just put up 2 and we had a 3-run lead and, it started to get a little real, in the dugout, and it was fun. You get nervous and, every pitch, you're kind of living it out there with the pitcher. I felt like I was pitching as well, but it was a ton of fun. And then, right to Colt, routine 4-3 ground ball. And then there was a lot of other stuff that I think I forget about, honestly, in the moment. But it was a ton of fun to be involved in.
The toughness and the resiliency of this squad has been so impressive. You guys are up 1-0. Then the Astros, a veteran championship team, they strike back. But then right away, your guys, after losing the lead, they get it back in the top of the 8th. Just what does it say about the toughness of this squad that you're with each and every day?
Yeah, I think it speaks volumes about the character, of those guys in that clubhouse. So I think when you give up 2, it was honestly huge to keep them to 2. That double play kept it away from getting to 3. So, we were only down 1 and, we can make a comeback even if it's against Presley and Hader. Those guys are two pretty well-seasoned guys and they pitch well in the postseason. And, credit to the lineup for putting together quality at-bats and putting the ball in play. And then obviously Andy Ibanez is working that at-bat and, unloading the bases with a double or triple down the line. That was a ton of fun. And I think it speaks volumes about those guys in the clubhouse and there's no quit in this team.
Tarik Skubal here with us. Hey, last time that we talked to you, it was right before the trade deadline, and there was all rumors about you potentially getting traded, and you kind of had a positive outlook on it, saying that's out of your control, but you're excited to see what this team could do in the second half. Just kind of take me through how this was possible, how your team kind of went from down and out to then having this strong second half, and now coming up tomorrow, we know you're going to be in the ALDS for Game 1.
Yeah, I think we're just playing team baseball, timely hitting, picking up pitchers, playing good defense. Our pitchers are going out there and being asked to do a ton of different roles, and they're having success in those roles. So, we're keeping our team in at pitching, and then we play great defense, and then timely hitting. I mean, that's what it takes to win, and we've been doing it, for a pretty good stretch now, and it's a ton of fun to be a part of, especially as a starting pitcher.
Why did you believe in this team when a lot of people didn't believe in this team? Did you see some of these things of, okay, even though this didn't work all that great in the first half, you knew what this team could be capable of if they corrected those mistakes?
Yeah, I think it's just the work ethic of our guys, all the stuff that goes on behind the scenes that nobody else sees, that as a teammate you see. I think that's what gives you belief. Everybody on this team comes to work ready to get better each and every day, and we have a coaching staff that demands that out of us, and they also have a ton of great guidance and insight and help and a plan for each of us to get better. So you add those things together. They may not show it in the record in the win-loss column, but over time, you can kind of see what happens, and I think that's what's happening with our squad right now is just guys continuously trying to get better, and then now it's showing on the field.
How did you kind of react when you didn't get traded? Because everyone was talking about you, and there was so much noise around that. How did you kind of handle it personally? I know there's a professional side to it, but personally, how did you kind of handle that?
Yeah, I don't really know if there was any truth behind all of that. I think, that's what the media does, right? Is they're trying to get clicks and views, and that's their job. So I totally understand it. But, when it was over, it didn't really have any change on when it was going on, if that makes sense. There wasn't a ton of merit to kind of anything being said, I don't think. So, but that's the job. That's their job to create clicks, to create, attention to the sport, whatever it is. So, and that's part of it. You got to understand that. But yeah, it didn't, when it ended, I kind of figured that I was staying here.
Yeah, and hey, it obviously has worked out. That goes without being said, Tarik Skubal. You guys had a monster second half. You also look like you're going to win the AL Cy Young. You had that phenomenal Game 1 of the wild card. That must have been a dream come true. I know there's more to do here and more to accomplish, but how about that Game 1 performance that you had in the wild card round?
Yeah, I mean, it was fun. That environment was hostile. It was great. It was loud. And to go out there and put your team in a position to win is all I ask myself to do every single time out. And I was able to do that Game 1, but that's doesn't matter if you don't do it again. So as cool as that moment was, it's over. We got to win this series, and it starts with tomorrow.
I know that there's a professional side to it, but everyone at one point was a kid dreaming of pitching or playing in a playoff game. when it all calmed down, and I know you're on to the next, which will be game 2 for you in this series, and obviously your team closed out the series up against the Astros, but how surreal was it knowing what you accomplished in that game 1, getting your first opportunity at postseason baseball?
Yeah, I mean, it was fun. It was fun to go out there and compete on that stage. Is fun. That's why you play the game, is for opportunities like this. But, right when the game was over, and we win and we started the series 1-0, we needed to, everyone kind of shift focus to the next game. And we came out and won game 2 too. So I think that's where it needs to be. Whatever happens in the past happens in the past. We need to look forward to tomorrow and try to win tomorrow's game.
You obviously fought through Tarik Skubal, that comebacker that hit you pretty hard, and then I saw you. I guess you were dealing with some cramps. How are you from a health perspective, if you don't mind me asking?
Oh, I'm all good. Cramps are cramps. It's happened before. I'll be fine. The comebacker, I think, got me in the glove too, so I'm good there. So I'm all good. I'm ready to go game 2.
And now you're going to be pitching in game 2. You're familiar with this Guardians team. Just what stands out to you about the opposition, Tarik Skubal?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good team. It's a quality team. They do it all. They play great defense. Their lineup grinds out at bats. They pitch. Their bullpen's probably the best in the league. It'll be a fun challenge. We know each other. We're decently familiar with each other. It'll be fun. It's a great opportunity for us to showcase what we got and hopefully come out on top.
Let me ask you about your manager, A.J. Hinch. We know how important that last series was to him with his background with Houston and being a champion there. Just what does your manager mean to you, Tarik Skubal?
Yeah, he means a lot. He's instilled a ton of confidence in me, since the first day on the job here. So, it means a lot to me. Even when I was, scuffling in 21, he never waived the amount of confidence that he put into me, and he probably put even more into me then than he does now. So it was very much needed at the time too, and he means a lot. He's the most prepared manager in the game, and I have a ton of confidence that every move that we make or every decision we make, it's going to be the right one, and he's putting our guys in a positions to have success. And yeah, I love it. His preparation is second to none, and I think he demands a lot of the coaching staff, and then it just kind of trickles down to the rest of our club. So yeah, I love that guy.
The roller coaster ride that it's been for you on this journey, and we always knew what you were capable of. To have it all come together, not only in Detroit this year, but also with all the national praise that you've been receiving. Just how do you kind of put this year so far? I know there's more to do, but into perspective of what you accomplished.
Yeah, I haven't even thought about it, to be honest. Maybe in a couple weeks or 3, 4, whenever our season's over, I'll probably have a different answer for you. But I don't really want to let my brain go there or go there and think that, I'm done. I still got a lot to do, and our team just has a lot to accomplish still. So, yeah, I haven't really let my brain go there.
Now, I think you're the best pitcher, not only in the AL, but all of Major League Baseball with what you displayed this season. Do you feel that as well? Do you feel like you proved enough so far this year to get that claim?
Yeah, I don't really care too much to be about it. Honestly, my job's to go out there and put our team in a position to win every single time I get the ball. So that's something I take pride in. I don't really care about titles. I don't care about any of that stuff. It's an honor. First off, I appreciate it, so thank you. But yeah, it doesn't really impact my day-to-day too much.
What's your message, by the way, to Tigers fans? This has been a franchise that obviously their fans have been down and out for a bit, and they've been waiting to get back to this moment. For you guys now to give them that moment and give them, something to cheer about. Just what do you say to Detroit Tigers fans, Tarik Skubal?
Yeah, first off, thank you for the, uncontinued, the support throughout the season. That last series was special, but we're going to need you, here in Cleveland and back at home when we get there. So I look forward to, seeing you guys out there tomorrow in Cleveland, but obviously, that game 3 at home, I'm looking forward to that environment and seeing what Detroit fans are all about.
I know that you're focused on your series and your eventual start in game 2, but did you get a moment last night to catch that Mets-Brewers game and that craziness with New York and Milwaukee?
Yeah, that was unbelievable. What a game. That was a sweet game. The whole game was really cool, right? Back-to-back homers in the 7th, and then the 3-run homer with 2 outs or whatever in the 9th, and then they tack on another one. And, that's postseason baseball. That was a ton of fun to watch.
Well, the last thing I'll ask you, and then we'll let you run, Tarik Skubal, and we always enjoy when you join us. Last time you were on the show, I told you how I have this fantasy baseball team named after you, Scooby-Dooby-Doo, and you like the name. And you said before no one has ever called you Scooby-Doo, but they've called you Scoobs, and they've also called you Scooby Snacks. I'll take you back to that Little League Classic. I saw like a month and a half later in August, you were wearing those cleats with the Scooby-Doo on it. Did we spark a little inspiration there, or did we get no credit for that? Just wondering.
I think we had that in the works before I went on the phone and got hopped on, but yeah, I mean, a lot of people call me Scoob. I feel like it was a layup there to get cleats and just do, Scooby-Doo themed ones. That was an easy one. And I think, if you see it, you're like, why is he wearing Scooby Snacks? And it's like, okay, his last name's Skubal, Scoob. It makes a ton of sense there. It's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, I wasn't looking for the credit, to be clear. Just some people were like, I wonder after your conversation if that kind of sparked something with them. But I just thought it was a layup, like you were saying. Anyway, always appreciate when you carve out some time for us, and good luck coming up, not only tomorrow, but on your start in Game 2. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
There he is, Tarik Skubal, joining us on the Zach Gelb Show. And by the way, it's time to ask the pros, where you, the listener, gets to ask us a question. And it's brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Simply tweet your question at INF Sportsnet or at Zach Gelb using the hashtag #AskThePros. Be listening later in the show when we might answer your question. Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get guaranteed low prices and excellent customer service from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts. O'Reilly Auto Parts. All righty. Appreciate Tarik Skubal joining us right there. Let me just say this. He's starting to trend into friend to show category, by the way. If you come on 3 times, I then say you're a friend of the program. So he's now been on twice. We get him on one more time, maybe next year. Or maybe if the Tigers keep on playing well, then you officially become into friend to show category. But I appreciate Tarik Skubal for joining us. Tigers Guardians tomorrow at 1 o'clock. Mets Phillies tomorrow at 4:08 p.m. Eastern time. It's going to be Zach Wheeler against Kodai Senga. Yeah, you heard that right. Kodai Senga has barely pitched this year for the Mets. He was hurt to start the season, then came back, then got hurt again. But the Mets are going to throw him out there. I don't know for how many pitches, but he'll be there to start in Philadelphia tomorrow. You got Michael Wacha against Garrett Cole at 6:30 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow at the big ballpark in the Bronx, Royals and Yankees. And then you will get Cease against Yamamoto with the Padres and the Dodgers at 8:38 p.m. Eastern time coming up tomorrow, Padres and Dodgers. A lot of pressure on the Dodgers. A lot of pressure on the Phillies and a lot of pressure on the Yankees. Those are the 3 teams out of the 8 that are remaining that are under the most pressure to win. The Yankees, by far and away in the AL, have the most pressure to get to the World Series. If it's not now, then when? It's probably going to be never, especially with what Judge and Soto are doing. And then in the NL, I would lean that there's slightly more pressure on the Dodgers just because of the star power and the national star power that they have. But the Phillies have been close. And when you get so close like the Phillies have been, where they lost in the World Series 2 years ago and then choked at home in the NLCS, anything short of a World Series is a disappointment and a failure for the Phillies. So those are, out of the teams remaining, the World Series or bust legitimate teams: Phillies, Yankees, Dodgers. And we'll see how the Dodgers fare up against the Padres, the Yanks fare up against the Royals, and the Phillies do fare up against the Mets. And who knows, maybe we'll get some magic with the Tigers and Guardians. Danny Kannell going to join us next. We'll talk some college football. It is the Zach Gelb Show.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. 3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
Alrighty, hour number 2 of our radio program. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. You know, a bizarre start to our show on what is usually a football Friday. We led the show with the Mets craziness up against the Brewers. We then touched a little bit on the Falcons and Kirk Cousins, and then we had Tarik Skubal on from the Detroit Tigers. But from here on out, I think for the next 2 hours, it's going to be football, 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 and some more football. And right now we're going to be joined by Danny Kannell, who does a phenomenal job, CBS Sports HQ, as a football analyst, and we know as the former Florida State quarterback and professional quarterback as well. And let me just tell you this before we do bring on Danny Kannell, that you could check out Bet Online for updated college football playoff, conference, Heisman, and college football Week 6 lines. And Danny Kannell joins us right now. Danny, always appreciate the time. Thanks for doing this. How you been?
What's up, Zach? Happy Friday. October is here. I was just in New York City last night, and there was a nice fall, crisp vibe in the air. It's awesome, man. It's a great time of year.
I appreciate you coming on. Let me start you off with the team that plays tonight. Oregon going up against Michigan State. Late game tonight, 9 p.m. Eastern time kick, obviously, with it being in Eugene, so late for me. But Oregon so far, Idaho, Boise State, then they started to look better against Oregon State and UCLA. I know the big one is next week as they welcome in Ohio State, but how do you kind of look at this Oregon, and what do you kind of make out of this team to start this season?
So I think Oregon is the victim of massive expectations coming into the season, myself included. They were not my national champion pick, and Dylan Gabriel was my Heisman Trophy winner in the preseason. Then, as you mentioned, little lackluster against Idaho, who is a top 15 FCS program, but still, you should be able to push them around. Then against Boise State, it was a little bit alarming, right? There was a special teams touchdown they needed to come back. They ended up winning by 3 points. But as we're learning now about Ashton Jeanty, he might be a generational type back at Boise State, so I don't think that loss looks as bad. Then they get a couple of nice wins, and they're starting to play better and more explosive. It is all about next week's game, which makes me a little bit cautious about this one. But I think Oregon's going to have a really impressive performance. I think they're getting fine-tuned. Dylan Gabriel continues to look more comfortable. He's completing over 80% of his passes, and that is one thing that I feel pretty good about. Is at the beginning of the season, I said he would complete a higher percentage than Bo Nix, and Bo Nix was at 78% on the season, which was phenomenal. I just think Dylan Gabriel is a very, very similar skill set. Michigan State has a young quarterback who is he's got 8 interceptions on the season. It's one of the most in the country. I think there's only 2 quarterbacks that have more interceptions than he does. He's been tossing it to the other team a little bit too much. It's a work in progress. I think he could struggle tonight in Eugene. So I actually like the Ducks to win big tonight. The only thing that makes me nervous is, do they pull the starters early, rest them if they are comfortable? Is there a backdoor touchdown type of situation? But I'll go ahead and lay them with the Ducks and say that even their backups will still be getting reps and putting up good numbers.
So one of our great affiliates is actually KTIK in Boise. So we had Ashton Jeanty on earlier in the week, and really good kid, phenomenal interview. That's weird. Now I could call people kids because I'm getting old now, so that's a real humbling moment for me. I didn't like how I just said that. But anyway, Danny Kannell, when you look at the Heisman Trophy Award, you know this, being a voter, you get 3 votes at the end of the season, a first, a second, and a third. Right now, I think the 3 names that have to be on the ballot are, in no order, Ashton Jeanty, Travis Hunter, and then Jalen Milroe after what he did up against Georgia. Those are the right 3 names so far in whatever order.
I would throw in one more that I think is very much in that mix, and I think it's a very fine line. I'd put Cam Ward in there from Miami. I think Cam Ward could get hurt by the schedule. It's pretty easy. He's got a big opportunity, but it's late against Cal. It's at 10:30. There aren't going to be many people that stay up late enough to see what he does there. I think his moment will come in the ACC championship game. Milroe just had his moment. That's why he vaulted everybody, jumped right to the top of the Heisman list. That was a phenomenal performance. And then it's funny you mentioned Ashton Jeanty and Boise. I've had a lot of their fans, because I put out my list, and I think I had him 3rd after Travis Hunter and after Jalen Milroe. And they were like, whoa, wait a second. Are you not watching what Jeanty's doing? I'm like, yes, I am. But you have to be considered one of the, and he is. It's really hard, because I want to compliment them all. And at this point, you do start dinging guys, and it feels like you're insulting one or the other. If I had a vote today, I probably would give it to Travis Hunter, because he's doing what we've never seen before. We've seen quarterbacks at Alabama even run the ball like the way Jalen Milroe is. We've seen him put up massive numbers. We've seen him have big moments on those stages. We've seen incredible running backs have great years and challenge Barry Sanders' record. We have not seen a player that is averaging over 100 snaps a game and contributing as a leading wide receiver and the top defensive back that's covering the opponent's best wide receiver. We just haven't seen that. So my vote today would go to Travis Hunter. I do think there's a magic number of wins that his team needs to get to. And I think it's 8, which I think is all of a sudden within reach. At the beginning of the season, their win total was 5.5. They got a couple impressive wins so far. The only blemish is the game against Nebraska, which did get sideways. But in a wide open Big 12 where there's just not a lot of talent gap between the teams, I could see them getting there. So I think Travis Hunter is a very real player for the Heisman Trophy.
It's fascinating, Danny Kannell, because when the season started, I said, I think they're just going to miss out on bowl eligibility. I think they're going to be like a 5-win team that we're talking about a lot, not only because of Coach Prime, because they'll have 2 top 10 picks in the draft. Then they play that game up against Nebraska, and it's like, okay, I think that's going to end up being right that they're a 5-win team. But what they just did up against UCF as a double-digit dog, going into that place and getting the win and just blowing the UCF out, I actually thought, even though they beat TCU coming off an appearance in a national title game, but that TCU team ended up only having 5 wins anyway, I thought what we just saw last weekend was the most impressive win of the Coach Prime era so far through the last 2 years.
I think so, because you knew the other team was going to be good. They had Big Noon on Fox there. It was a really, the weather in South Florida has been hot. So, the conditions were not conducive to a team from altitude and where there's not a lot of humidity to come to the state of Florida. And they pushed them around. I think it was also, if you remember the TCU game, it was a shootout back and forth. There wasn't a lot of defense that was played. I was probably most impressed with their defense that showed up and really looked awesome and was able to contain that UCF run game. So I'm with you. I coming into the season, I didn't touch any bets around Colorado because I was like, I honestly have no idea.
Right,
there's
on the
so
fence.
much turnover on the roster. But I did say this. I will tune in to watch, and 4 million people tuned in to watch that game. Everyone wants to see what happens. They are must-watch television. I will say this, though. Their schedule is about to get tougher. Like Kansas State, they have a bye week this week. Then they have Kansas State, who I think is one of the best teams in the Big 12. I'm very curious to see how they stand up against them. If they beat Kansas State, I think 8 wins is almost a certainty. If they don't, then it's like, okay, which direction do they go?
And the Big 12 is really what the Pac-12 used to be. Whenever you fall in love with a team, they lose within 2 weeks. And we've seen that this year with look at Arizona, Utah, just this past last week. That's what the Big 12, I know they take some Pac-12 teams, but it's really becoming how I felt about the Pac-12 for all those years. Like, good conference, but whenever you say, okay, this is going to be the team and this is going to be their year, they lose the next week.
Totally agree. And it's the same thing that happened to the Pac-12. Now, the thing that crushed the Pac-12 and probably ended up its demise, do you remember what would happen? They'd have a lot of really good football teams and not a great football team, and then they wouldn't get a team in the playoff. The good news now,
you'll get a team in.
They're guaranteed one team, but I do wonder if they struggle getting multiple teams in, because I do think they could see some cannibalization here throughout the season. I think they're going to start knocking each other off, like you said.
For years, Kyle Whittingham had that label as the most underrated coach in the country. Now everyone acknowledges him definitely as a top 10 coach. A lot of people as a top 5 coach. I think now when I look at that title, most underrated coach in the country, I'll throw out 2 names. I know Stoops has 2 10-win seasons at Kentucky, and he just beat Ole Miss, but A&M fans didn't want him as their head coach, which I still don't understand. And then also you mentioned Chris Kleiman. This guy won a Big 12 championship, and no one talked about it because TCU ended up making the playoffs that year. Those, to me, are the 2 most underrated coaches in the country. Yourself?
I agree. I think they're absolutely in that category. I also think Pat Narduzzi at Pitt is now he's coming off a 3-win season last year. He's already eclipsed that total. They're 4-0. They got an interesting game at North Carolina. But I did talk to Chris Kleiman earlier this week. He was on my radio show, and he made the interesting decision that a couple schools do. It has worked out for him so far. It has not worked out for Oklahoma. Remember, Oklahoma had a decision to make. They decided to move on from Dylan Gabriel. They went with Jackson Arnold, who has since been benched. Yeah. I was really impressed with Avery Johnson. He had his roughest game by far as a quarterback in college with 2 interceptions and cost his team a game against BYU, a very surprising loss for them. But he bounced back with a huge win and a big performance against Oklahoma State. And I was talking to Coach Kleiman about it. He said, I was really impressed with his competitive nature, the fight, how he wanted to get back on the field. For some reason, we've seen an epidemic of quarterbacks struggling with confidence. The minute they're faced with adversity, they clam up and they go into a shell. And I was really impressed that Avery Johnson bucked that trend and was able to bounce back with a huge game. And I do think Chris Kleiman's absolutely up there with those underrated coaches.
Danny Kannell here with us. So when the schedule came out and we started to see everyone's schedule, I circled that Clemson-Florida State game, and I go, oh, that's the game I'm most excited for. DJU, I hope he shoves it, up the you-know-what of Dabo Swinney. And now DJU's not going to play in the game, and we know the Florida State season is totally flipped upside down at 1-4. I don't want to rub the salt in the wound here. I don't mean to do that to you. What the heck has happened with Florida State?
It has been the most perplexing season that I can remember in Florida State history. disappointment, disaster. There's really not a word to describe it. But I think now it becomes like, how did this happen? Why did this happen? And I think that's a question that even Mike Norvell and a lot of coaches and a lot of administrators are wondering. How could we have as much talent as we thought we had and end up losing to the likes of Boston College and a new team to the ACC and SMU who beat them down? Like, it wasn't even close. Yeah. Like, how does this happen? I think there's a couple things. I think they missed on the quarterback. I mean, I just think that it is what it is. And I think that both sides did not get what they signed up for. And what I mean by that is Florida State thought they were going to get a quarterback who would really keep things from going off the rails. Like, if they had some adversity, I thought they felt they could withstand it. I thought he was a safe play. And I don't think they got that, because he had his worst game of his career against SMU. He ends up getting benched, and he's been very volatile and very ineffective as a quarterback. Then where I don't think DJ got a good deal either, because he signed up for what he thought was going to be a top 10 defense, one of the best defensive lines, an outstanding run game, and a really good offensive line. And guess what? Florida State didn't deliver that to DJ either. So, like, both sides, I think, probably got the short end of the stick. And then it's this perfect combustible mix of an awful, horrendous start for Florida State, which, now it's at the point where Brock Glenn comes in, who has not played great. I do think that's probably why he stuck with Mike Norvell stuck with DJ so long, is because he sees him all at practice every day. And we saw Brock Glenn in the ACC championship game. It was worse than what we've seen from DJ now. Then we saw him in the Orange Bowl. It wasn't that much better. And now he gets an opportunity against Clemson. I feel bad for this kid. He's played against some really, really good teams, and he's thrust into these tough positions. But that's part of the territory when you're a quarterback at Florida State. Now you're just trying to salvage the season, maybe get to bowl eligibility.
Yeah, when I look at the transfer portal, Danny Kannell, and I'm pro, right, player empowerment, having the right to leave, having the right to make money. But what I equate to what happened with Florida State, it's like playing blackjack. You're hidden. The whole table's hot. Everyone's having a great time. And they had a great run last year, but that could end. And when it ends and that run ends, it goes south quick. So here's my question to you, because a lot of people thought last year Florida State's back, and now they're like, run Mike Norvell out of town. Where are you at with the head football coach at Florida State and your confidence in him?
I'm a believer in him. I've never wavered in that. I liked the foundation he was building. It's definitely been shaken. There are a lot of fans, as you mentioned, who are calling, oh my goodness, next year he's got to come in on the hot seat. Whether they like it or not, he's still got $74 million left, and we're not. We don't have a bunch of oil boosters like they have at A&M that can just stroke those type of checks. But I don't say, even if we did, I would say, whoa, let's slow down a little bit. Let's make sure we're not getting ahead of ourselves and panicking after one bad year. And there have been other bad years too. Like, don't want to sugarcoat it, but I think there's got to be a balance. And you mentioned it. It's as if the dealer had 14 showing, and you've got two kings, and you split them and you double down, or whatever your hand is. It's awesome. And then the dealer flips over a card, and it's a 2. And so you get to 16, and you're thinking, oh, this is getting even better. We're going to bust out. And then the dealer pulls a 5. Like, it has been that bad. We've all been at the blackjack table when that hand has come. Yep. You think you've got a winner, and then it gets wiped out. You even double down and maybe split a couple more, and then you lose all your money. That's the way it feels right now. But I think there's got to be a balance, and somebody needs to come with a better approach of how to handle the portal and recruiting, because it has to be a combination of both. And what's interesting on this game itself, the Clemson Florida State, I had somebody ask me this the other day, is this a transfer portal game? Because Dabo has been anti-portal, and after he lost to Georgia, everybody was ready to throw him out, saying, look, he can't win, he's not attacking the portal. All of a sudden, they're averaging 55 points a game since that one, blowing teams out. They're coming in. If they blow out Florida State, what kind of referendum is that on the portal? Is that saying, oh, well, Florida State's the cautionary tale of getting too deep in the portal, which I do tend to agree with. I think there has to be a balance so you can have homegrown players, and then you address needs with the portal. So it's going to be a lot of interesting storylines to come out of this one.
All right, wrap it up with Danny Kannell. You can check out Bet Online for updated college football playoff conference, Heisman, and college football week 6 lines. Let me just get to 2 games, and then we'll get you on out of here. Missouri A&M. A&M's a 2.5-point favorite. Kind of give me your breakdown on this game.
So I'm going to go, instead of looking at the number in front of Missouri's name, which is a 9, they're ranked 9th in the country, and everyone's looking at this saying, how can they be an underdog on the road? I'm going to look at what I've seen on the field. And this is a team that has really been sputtering of sorts this season. They struggle with Boston College, who's a good team, but they're not a great team. And Missouri didn't come anywhere close to covering the spread. And then Vanderbilt took them to overtime at home, a Missouri home game, which was really sort of alarming for me. Vanderbilt is, at the bottom of the SEC. I think they were a 3-touchdown favorite, and they were faced with overtime. For whatever reason, they are missing some players from last year. Brady Cook, their quarterback, is not clicking all cylinders. And then all of a sudden, I'm supposed to expect them to go into the harshest environment in college football, and just all of a sudden it's going to work. And not to mention, Texas A&M's defensive front has incredible talent on it, including a guy named Nick Scorton, who transferred in for Purdue, who's tearing it up on that side of the ball. And Texas A&M made a quarterback change due to injury, but I do think they stick with Marcel Reed. He's provided a spark for the offense. He's a dual threat. He hits big plays, and most importantly, he doesn't turn the ball over. I like the Aggies in this one, Zach. I think they win this game and cover.
Last one I'll ask you, and I never think I would ever say this on a national radio program, but it could be the best game of the weekend. Rutgers and Nebraska. I'm excited. Like, I have a wedding to go to on Saturday. I got to watch the Mets against the Phillies, but I will also maybe have like 2 phones or use someone else's phone because I got to watch at 4 p.m. Eastern time Nebraska and Rutgers, and what we've been seeing so far, not only from Schiano, but Dylan Raiola. Holy smokes, this kid is special.
You have to. It's going to be an awesome game. Rutgers, one of the surprises of the season. Greg Schiano's done a phenomenal job building this program up. The sea of red out there in Lincoln is going to be absolutely on fire. And yet they lost already once at home against Illinois. I like Rutgers in the points here. I'll be very, very curious. Dylan Raiola has been awesome. Baby Patrick Mahomes, right? He looks like Patrick Mahomes, wears the 15. He's modeled his game. He's trained with him, right? So it makes total sense. He needs to pick up his sense of urgency because he's a little too cool. Like, when you watch Mahomes play, he's cool. He never looks flustered, but he still plays at a quick pace. Raiola, I think he's modeling himself trying to look cool, but he forgets, like, you got to get rid of the football sometimes. That's what got him in trouble against Illinois in overtime. I think Rutgers tries to deflate this game, take the crowd out of it with Kyle Monungai, their running back, and they have a really good defense. And here's where I'm worried about Nebraska. They have had for 3 or 4 years now trouble in one-possession games, and they had one against Illinois. They came up short. They desperately need to win one of these tight games. I think they get the win, but I also think this is going to be a tight game coming down the wire to a field goal. Nebraska's field goal kickers are a little bit of a mess. So I'll take Rutgers and the 6.5, 7 points, whatever number you can find. I'll take Rutgers as the underdog on the road, but I do think Nebraska wins.
He is Danny Kannell. He's one of the best voices out there when it comes to talking college football, and you can check out Bet Online for updated college football, playoff conference, Heisman, and college football Week 6 lines. Danny, always a pleasure. Thank you.
You're the best, Zach. Enjoy the weekend.
You got it. There he is. Thanks so much. Danny Kannell joining us on the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. When we come on back, a revenge spot for Sam Darnold, a revenge spot for Stephon Diggs. We'll talk about that next. Sports fans, listen up. 1 in 8 men will be diagnosed with prostate cancer, and bladder leaks can be a side effect. That's why Depend is teaming up with the Prostate Cancer Foundation to encourage screening, because health is a long game, and it's yours to win. Now, here's the cool part. Through November, Depend is contributing up to $300,000 to prostate cancer research by donating 40 cents for every purchase of shields, guards, and Real Fit products. Void in Mississippi. Learn more at Depend.com.
You're in a 4.5-minute break. Four minutes remaining. 3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back to the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
Alrighty, this is Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network, and this portion of the program is brought to you by Sleeper. Just download the Sleeper app today and use code SCORE when signing up. Must be present in certain states. Visit sleeper.com for details. Sponsored by Sleeper, a Blitz product. We turn our attention to another week in the NFL season, as we are now going to Week 5. And we had Week 5 kickoff last night with the Buccaneers and the Falcons having an epic game where the Falcons get the walk-off touchdown in overtime to secure a 36-30 victory. Both those teams are 3-2, and they are the two best teams in the NFC South, in my estimation. I do have Atlanta winning that division. But when we turn our attention to Sunday, there's really two games that I'm just curious about how we're talking about those games on Monday, and it's who gets the revenge. Now, you'll look at Sam Darnold going to London with the Vikings at 4-0. What a statement. And the Jets being 2-2. And then you also see Stephon Diggs at home now in Houston, welcoming in the Buffalo Bills. Stu, I'll ask you this question. I have my answer to this one, and I think it's fairly obvious, but maybe you have a different opinion. Darnold going up against the Jets or Stephon Diggs going up against the Buffalo Bills? Which player individually do you think there is more pressure on to secure a victory?
Pressure-wise, I would say Diggs.
Like, I think more is asked of Sam Darnold in that game when you're the quarterback, and the Texans can win even if Stephon Diggs doesn't play well because, right, you got Nico Collins, you got Tank Dell, clearly you have C.J. Stroud. But to me, the Darnold Jet storyline, since we're far removed from it, like Sam Darnold was with the Panthers. Then Sam Darnold was in San Francisco. Now Sam Darnold is in Minnesota. So I get it why there's, I guess, that feel around it, like, oh, it's a revenge spot for Sam Darnold. But these are different football teams from when they did say goodbye to one another. And they did elect to move on from Sam Darnold. The Jets had Zach Wilson in between having Aaron Rodgers as their quarterback. So I think it's a storyline, and there's probably personal motivation just because you're going up against the Jets with you being Sam Darnold, and there could be animosity there because you probably think that the Jets screwed you up, and it ultimately ended up working out for now because look at the way that we're talking about Sam Darnold heading into this Week 5 matchup. But the wound is more fresh with Stephon Diggs and the Bills. And here's the thing. Like, the Jets and Sam Darnold was just a relationship that didn't work. And it was a relationship that the Jets didn't do the best for Sam Darnold, and Sam Darnold, even to maybe his own admission, even though you put more blame on the Jets, didn't do his best for the Jets. Like, that's just a draft pick that did not work out. For Stephon Diggs, why there's a lot of individual pressure on him is because when he was brought to Buffalo, not only did his career take off, and I know some people go, oh, Zach, what are you talking about? He was a good wide receiver before then. Yes, but I think people get caught up in the moment when you look at someone's career and what it's turned out to be, and you forget the conversations at the time. When Stephon Diggs got traded from the Minnesota Vikings to the Buffalo Bills, people said this about Stephon Diggs, and I was one of them. He's a good wide receiver. At times, he looks like a number one wide receiver, but we're going to now see if he's a great wide receiver in Buffalo. And Stephon Diggs was good. Stephon Diggs was really good in Minnesota. But he became great in Buffalo. And not only did he become great in Buffalo, Josh Allen became great in Buffalo because of Stephon Diggs. And I also think the most forgotten part of that conversation is everyone looks at it and goes, look what Stephon Diggs did for Josh Allen. Look also what Josh Allen did for Stephon Diggs. The two of them needed each other. And then I don't know exactly what happened, but whatever did go down, it clearly made the season last year and how it started in the offseason, that was the beginning of the end. That's what it was. The moment Sean McDermott took to that podium, and whether they knew that Stephon Diggs was sent home or they did not, however that story did go down, the moment that Sean McDermott said that it was alarming or there's concern, however he worded it, and then the next day tried to scoop up the toothpaste and put it back in the tube, that was it for Stephon Diggs in Buffalo. That was going to be his last season. And Stephon Diggs, he had a touchdown. The last touchdown he scored was Thanksgiving weekend. I was at the game in Philly. And his last 100-yard game was in October or something like that. So that season, even though you look back at Stephon Diggs, and I think he had 1,100-something yards, yeah, statistically, if you weren't watching the games, you would say, oh, he had a good season. But down the stretch, he was really irrelevant for that team. And he was MIA for that team. And in that game up against the Chiefs, Josh Allen threw a mega throw down that right sideline, hit Diggs in the hands. It would have been like a 70-yard completion. It was wild, that play. And Diggs dropped the football. So what's frustrating with the Diggs and Bills relationship, it felt like it should have been a relationship that never expired. And maybe there's blame to go around on both sides, but I would put, more blame on Diggs than I would the Buffalo Bills, because this is a pattern for Stephon Diggs. He got in Minnesota, eventually had enough with Minnesota, gets in Buffalo, eventually had enough in Buffalo. They basically ripped up his contract to try to prevent that with the Houston Texans. But this is a spot where I wonder if the individual motivation, I do think the individual motivation on Sunday is greater for Stephon Diggs than it is Sam Darnold going up against the Jets. I think they're two, similar situations, but also totally different situations. And I just wonder if Stephon Diggs gets too much in his own head and he ends up costing his team. I don't know about you, Stu. I have zero reason to have any animosity towards the Bills, and I have zero reason to have any animosity towards the Houston Texans. I know I'm a Patriot fan, but the Patriots own Buffalo for 20 years. So if Buffalo has a run now, I'm not going to be sitting there and sound like a bunch of sour grapes here. That's just not going to be me. But when you look at this one, who are you rooting for? Are you rooting for the Texans on Sunday, or are you rooting for the Bills? Because for me, I'm rooting for the Bills in this game because Stephon Diggs at the end became obnoxious in Buffalo, and he will be so insufferable on Sunday. And I like C.J. Stroud. I like D'Amico Ryans. I love Will Anderson, right? I like that Texans team, and it's a fun story. Nick Caserio, too. But in this individual isolated matchup, if Diggs has a big game and gets his revenge on the Bills, I'm going to find that insufferable because he's someone that didn't take any accountability for his actions. And remember, I forget what piece he did this offseason, but he's basically if people really know the truth in Minnesota and people really know the truth in Buffalo, that would speak a lot. And also, those teams didn't really want to move on from me. I wanted to move on from them. He pulled you're breaking up with me? No. We just broke up. I'm breaking up with you kind of card. And that always rubbed me the wrong way recently with Stephon Diggs.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. I am more on the Bills / Josh Allen side of this. And also, I'm rooting for the Bills overall this year, just as a team that can stop the Chiefs winning yet another Super Bowl. And I think that's the best bet. Them in the AFC, of all the teams in the AFC, I think they have the best shot of doing that.
Yeah, right now I would say Buffalo and Baltimore. I know some people are going to say, what about the Bengals? Well, the Bengals have something to prove this weekend. We'll get into them later as they go up against the Ravens, because just beating the Carolina Panthers, and to me, they didn't look all that impressive doing so, doesn't mean I have to say we're all back in on the Bengals train. Now, if you could guarantee me the Bengals go up against the Chiefs, then yes, I think the Bengals would have the best chance of taking down the Chiefs in the AFC. But I don't know if the Chiefs are going to be there or the Bengals are going to be there at the end of the season. All right, it is Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. We will take a time out. And when we come on back, Stu's got some questions. I got some answers. We do this segment every Monday and Friday. We call it Onside Offside. We'll get to it on the other side. Update time first. Here is the Act Man, Rich Ackerman.
Infinity Sports Network Sports Flash.
Malik Neighbors is off to a fabulous start for the Giants, but the 6th pick overall will miss his first NFL game due to a concussion, while running back Devin Singletary is doubtful with a groin injury. The Texans' Joe Mixon not expected to play against the Bills. They will be without defensive tackles Ed Oliver and Austin Johnson, as well as receiver Khalil Shakir. The Colts' Jonathan Taylor is out with a high ankle sprain, while quarterback Anthony Richardson is questionable with an oblique injury. After Kirk Cousins threw for over 500 yards last night, Oregon and its high-powered offense will host Michigan State. The Ducks are 4-0 coming off back-to-back wins. Head coach Dan Lanning expects the fans in Eugene to give them a big lift tonight.
They're obviously on a short week. We're on a short week as well, but our guys came out there again to work today, did a really good job, but it's about stacking the next few days as well. And continue to improve. And then obviously our fan support in Autzen is unbelievable, right? When you have the fans that we have, they make a huge impact on that game.
The Spartans are coming off back-to-back losses to Ohio State and Boston College. Also in the top 25, UNLV, ranked 25th, will host Syracuse. The Twins have parted ways with GM Thad Levine after 8 years and 3 division titles. And the NHL season began in Prague with the Devils beating the Sabres 4-1. I'm Rich Ackerman.
This is the Infinity Sports Network. Follow us on X. Our handle is INF Sports Network. That's INF Sports Network on X.
You're in a 5-minute break. 4 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Zach's taking on the most polarizing issues in sports. Which side of the line of scrimmage will he end up on?
Offside. Defense number 69.
It's Onsides, Offsides with Zach Gelb.
All right, it is a Friday on the Zach Gelb Show. You know we do the segment every Monday and Friday. That is Onside, Offside. Stu, what do we got cooking today?
All right, Zach. So Jaden Daniels is off to an incredible start this season, racking up 900 yards passing and another 200 yards rushing to go along with 7 total touchdowns. The Commanders' offense is rolling, ranking 6th in the NFL in total yards, 3rd in points, and the offense has put up points in a staggering 20 of its last 22 full possessions, not counting the end of a half or game kneel down. Onsides, offsides, Jaden Daniels is already a top 10 NFL quarterback.
So I think I am like fan number 1 in the national media. I always feel weird referring to myself that way, of Jaden Daniels. I wanted the Patriots to tank for Jaden Daniels. I actually got in a screaming match in our newsroom with one of my confidants, Patriot fan Ray Martell, who was celebrating at the end of the year a Patriot victory, and I said that's going to be bad because it's going to cost us Jaden Daniels and it's going to cost us a 2nd overall pick. He has been phenomenal through 4 games. But to say that he's a top 10 quarterback after 4 games is way too premature. Like, we have legitimate conversations if Dak Prescott is a top 10 quarterback in this league. So to just anoint already that Jaden Daniels is a top 10 quarterback, he's on his way. If he plays the rest of the season like this, yes, he will be. But right now, no. I can't call him a top 10 quarterback today. So I will go offside.
Offside.
So we get an interesting game Sunday night with 2 of America's most popular teams as the Cowboys travel to the Steel City to take on the Steelers. Dallas is 2-2, and they sit 2nd in the NFC East, while the Steelers lead the AFC North, but hope to fend off the surging Ravens. Onsides, offsides, this is a must-win game for both teams if they hope to make the playoffs.
So you talk about this, right? It's a big game. And I'm really upset in this matchup. Micah Parsons is officially out. That came down 30 minutes ago with the high ankle sprain. Because I had a vision on Sunday night. Zach Gelb sitting on his couch. Bum, bum, bada, bum, bum, bada, 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 bum. And they would play our interview of Micah Parsons just sounding off and like running his mouth about TJ Watt. That's what I envisioned when Micah Parsons was on this show and saying TJ Watt is on a top 5 pure pass rusher in the NFL. That's what I envisioned. But then Micah Parsons gets hurt at the end of that Giants game last week, and now he's out with the ankle injury. So that's a shame. And it does take, outside of the personal interest, a lot of juice out of this game. I get it, 2 great fan bases in the Cowboys and the Steelers. But if you had Micah Parsons in the game, a lot more juice there. So is this a must-win game for both teams? They hope to make the playoffs? I'm actually going to say no. And it's one of those games that it's a big game for both teams, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's a must-win. Like, if the Cowboys lose this game, right now the standings are Washington 3-1, the Cowboys 2-2, the Eagles are 2-2, and the Giants are 1-3. Like, if Dallas falls to 2-3, is their season over? No. Can they not make the playoffs if they're 2-3? No. And I don't think the Cowboys are making the playoffs. And I look at the Steelers, like, if they lose this game, they're 3-2. At worst, after this weekend, they're tied with the Ravens, who could win and also be 3-2. So just talking about winning your division and getting in, that would still be alive for both of these teams. So this is a must-win game for both teams, and they hope to make the playoffs. No, I think there is still some hope, even if whoever ends up losing this game. So I will go offside on that one.
Offside.
Travis Hunter is dominating college football and sits behind only Jalen Milroe in Heisman odds at plus 350. Now, multiple publications like USA Today, The Athletic, and Pro Football Focus have Hunter as the number 1 pick in most of their recent 2025 mock drafts. So onsides, offsides, even if a team needs a quarterback, Travis Hunter should be the number 1 overall pick in next year's draft.
I truly don't know who's going to be the first quarterback off the board. But if you are picking number 1 and you fall in love with a quarterback, like let's say the Giants have the number 1 overall pick. If the Giants fall in love with the quarterback in the draft process, it means that they do not pass up on that quarterback. And I think Hunter is going to be a star on whatever side of the ball he plays, and I would like to see him play both ways. But I still don't know which side he's going to pick. I would think, Stu, financially, he would go wide receiver over corner. But I could argue that he's a better corner than he is wide receiver, and he's still a really good wide receiver. So just because he may be the best player in college football doesn't mean that he has to be the number one overall pick. And usually in this league, even though there is a big importance on wide receivers, and also there's a big importance on corners to cover those wide receivers, the most important position is the quarterback. So even with there not appearing to be a generational talent, you will have teams that fall in love with quarterbacks, and if those teams happen to have the number one overall pick, they will take the quarterback over Travis Hunter. So when you ask me, even if a team needs a QB, Travis Hunter should be the number one overall pick in the draft. I will go offside.
Offsides.
It is a slow weekend in college football with just one game featuring two ranked teams.
Now, hold on. I just got a message.
Uh-oh.
ZG from our pal Billy Wolf. Be optimistic. Pats get the number one pick, trade down to get a haul, and still get Hunter. It's a fair thought. And that is something that I've thought of. I would like my football team to get the number one overall pick, and then you find a sucker that wants to go get a quarterback, because the Patriots have a quarterback. I don't know if he is the quarterback, but they have a quarterback in Drake May, and you trade back a few spots, you still get a big-time player like a Travis Hunter, and you get some more draft capital. So, Billy, I think you mean that in a nice way. I don't think you're attacking me whatsoever, let me be clear. But I could get into that line of thinking with Billy. You know what? I think Billy just wants to be as optimistic as possible and happy-go-lucky as possible. So, sure. Billy, if you tell me that I could move back to 4 and still get Hunter and get a bunch of picks in the process, I'm all in. All in for my guy, Billy Wolf, in the YouTube chat.
So we have just the
one. A lot
one.
of positivity people want. I thought negativity sells. Now everyone wants positive thoughts. Positive thoughts. That's what everyone
Feels
wants
like a
these
change,
days.
yeah. So in college football this weekend, just the one game with two ranked teams. Number 25 A&M hosting number 9 Missouri. However, one of the under-the-radar matchups has undefeated Rutgers traveling to West Lincoln to take on Dylan Raiola in the 4-1 Nebraska Cornhuskers. So onside, offsides, Rutgers, Nebraska is actually the best game of the weekend.
I'm going on sides on this one. So like A&M Missouri is nice in star power or like name power. You could tell me that it's it could be a blowout though. I just don't see a way, Stu, that Rutgers and Nebraska isn't close. I think this is going to be, and see, I'm a different type of football guy. I think this is going to be a sloppy, fun, miserable, but great game. And I know it's not a high bar, but that's where we're setting things out this week. Like, if Nebraska loses, it's going to be in the most crucial turnover or missed field goal. And then if they win, there's going to be a moment with Raiola marching down the field and telling Chiano, hush, hush. Like, that's what's going to happen. So I think if Rutgers wins, it's going to be entertaining. If Nebraska wins, it's going to be entertaining. Like, if I could guarantee chaos occurs in one game this weekend, I will put my money and all my money on Rutgers and Nebraska just being the most chaotic game of the weekend. Whether that means chaotic in a great way or chaotic in a miserable way, we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, that to me is the best game of the weekend. Game I'm most excited for onside.
To nobody's surprise, Caitlin Clark was voted the WNBA Rookie of the Year after her record-breaking and historic first season. However, some fans are up in arms because Clark got 66 of the 67 total votes, with the lone vote going to her nemesis, Angel Reese. Onsides, offsides, it is unacceptable that Clark didn't win the award unanimously.
So let me be abundantly clear here. I thought that Caitlin Clark absolutely should have won the Rookie of the Year. There was a conversation for a little bit, for about like a week, if you remember, that it should be Angel Reese. Now, I don't know who voted for Angel Reese. Is it a Chicago reporter? All right, then I'm not going to freak out about this. So I don't know if that stuff is made public necessarily on who is behind the vote and who didn't vote for Caitlin Clark. I think she should have been Rookie of the Year. Am I going to freak out that she didn't get all 67 votes? No, she got 66 out of 67. That's good enough for me. So when you say it's unacceptable that Clark didn't win the award unanimously, yeah, she probably should have, but like unacceptable, like it's the most egregious thing of all time, I'm not going to go there. So I will go offside.
Offside.
Quite frankly, I just really don't care. Like, I'm so sick and tired of the Rookie of the Year conversation. It was stupid to begin with. It was stupid during, and it's stupid afterwards. We all knew who was going to win the award. So now it's all let's bitch and complain about Caitlin Clark not getting all 67 votes. She won the award. All right? Like, the award was right. It went to the right person. So, people just have to complain about everything. I'm not doing it today. I'm in a good mood today. I'm not complaining. I'm not being a miserable person today.
Well, last one here. The Padres, they swept their opening round series against the Braves, and they take on their NL West rival Dodgers in the NLDS. However, the team is causing a bit of a stir with Southern California baseball fans as they are blocking fans from Los Angeles
losers
from purchasing tickets to games at Petco Park. Onsides, offsides, you're okay with a team blocking fans from another city buying tickets to home games?
No, absolutely not. If you don't want your tickets to go to another fan, then don't sell your tickets. This idea that now all of a sudden we're afraid that another team's fan base is going to invade our ballpark, so now we have to put up restrictions is so stupid, so dumb. And what happens, it's not like LA is some city, right, that isn't an attraction, isn't a destination. Like, there could be Padres fans living in LA that moved to LA or just for whatever reason became fans of the Padres, and now they can't buy tickets to a Padres game if they wanted to go see their team? Stupid. Really stupid. So you're okay with the team blocking fans from another city from buying tickets to home games? Offside.
Offsides.
Minor league behavior. So the Padres are doing that, Stu? Is what you're saying?
Yeah, Padres are doing that.
I can't believe I'm going to say this. Go Dodgers.
Wow.
That's what I don't really care. In terms of who wins or loses that series, it doesn't impact my life. But when you do something like that, that's so Bush League, have an actual fan base. There's Padres fans. We saw those dope singing that Padres song a few years ago. So now you're going to put some preemptive measures because, the big bad Dodgers fans are coming to town. They're coming to take over Slam Diego. Give me a break. Losers. Losers. Losers! Is the Zach Gelb Show.
The good mood didn't last very long, did it?
I'm positive. Sorry. Winners, 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 winners. 2 thumbs up. Let's slap everyone on the behind. Everyone's great. Everyone's a winner here. Positive, positive, positive. You know what, Stu? You get a participation trophy for showing up to work today.
All right.
Center, you get one as well. Everyone gets participation trophies for showing up to work today. All righty? Let's just praise everybody. Everyone love everybody, okay? No negativity in this world. This is Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. When we come on back, where the Bengals need to show me something this weekend. And also Pat McCarthy, one of the Mets radio voices, is going to join us at 5:20 p.m. Eastern time. He'll do picks with us, and we'll do a news brief coming up today in 45 minutes from now. Zach Gelb Show, final hour of the show when we come on back.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 3 minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
To infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Alrighty, rocking and rolling. Hour number 3 of our radio program. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. I'm going to say it for this weekend in the NFL. The team with the most pressure on them are actually the Cincinnati Bengals. Like, here's your Sunday slate. In London at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time, you have the Jets and the Vikings. You have the Panthers at the Bears. That's at 1 o'clock. This is the 1 o'clock window now. You have Miami at New England, Cleveland at Washington, Indy at Jacksonville, Buffalo at Houston, and then you get to the 4:05 p.m. Eastern Time window, Raiders at Denver, Arizona at San Francisco, Green Bay at the Rams, the Giants at Seattle, and then your Sunday night game is Cowboys at the Steelers, and then obviously on Monday, you do have the Saints and the Kansas City Chiefs. But yeah, the team that I think is under the most pressure this weekend are the Cincinnati Bengals. Because it's weird. The Bengals are the team that everyone gives the benefit of the doubt to. Like, they're 1-3, or even when they were 0-2, they're going to find a way. They'll turn it around. That's a team we've seen before start slow and find a way to turn their season around. You know, it happened in 2022 when we saw that football team start off 0-2 and then they lose in the AFC Championship game. Even last year, that team started 0-2. I know they missed the postseason, but they ended up being a 9-8 football team. And even in the year they got to the Super Bowl, you know, I know they got a victory in week 1, but that team was 1-1 after 2 weeks losing to Chicago. And they found a way to go march on to the Super Bowl that year. And if they could have just got a second more or half second more up against Aaron Donald blocking him, you would have had Joe Burrow hitting Jamar Chase down the right sideline. So I get why there's belief in Cincinnati. And it's because of the fact what they have displayed with how unmovable this force is with the Kansas City Chiefs. They've been the only team that has defeated the Chiefs when it has mattered the most, with Tom Brady no longer being a part of the NFL as a player in the postseason. They've been the only team to do so. So when you've been the only team to do so, we kind of really look at you and say, okay, even though it's a slow start, even though you were 0-3 and you had a very victory up against the Carolina Panthers, where I wasn't even blown away with that performance. I know the final score looks nice, 34-24, but that game was close for a while. There's still that belief and benefit of the doubt that the Bengals, as long as they just get an invite to the dance, they're going to have a chance to go on home with the prom queen. That's kind of the way that a lot of people look at the Cincinnati Bengals. And even if they lose this game to the Ravens, they'll be 1-4, but I bet you people will say, oh, they'll beat the Giants, and they'll beat Cleveland, and then they'll be 3-4, and the season is saved. If Cincinnati wants me to actually have a reason to believe in them for what they're doing on the field, not in 2023 or 2022 or 2021, I'm talking this season, in 2024, they need to go on out there this weekend, Sunday, 1 o'clock, at their home turf. And I'm not saying they need to blow out the Ravens, because the Ravens are a heck of a team with Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry, and you got John Harbaugh. We know what the Ravens are capable of. They were about to beat the snot out of the Cowboys, and they let them back in the game. And then just this past week, the Bills at times have looked like the best team in the NFL, and they just smothered the Buffalo Bills for 60 minutes. So I'm not going to sit here and be that dope that goes, oh, the Bengals, they got to blow out the Ravens. They're going to blow them out. No, I'm not going to do that. Stupid. It sounds stupid. The Bengals just got to win, though, this week. I don't care if it's pretty. I don't care if it's ugly. They just got to win. The Bengals just got to win. Like, if they win this game 14-10, I'm not going to get on the radio on Monday when we sign on right at 3 p.m. Eastern time and go, Cincinnati, they won, but it wasn't a pretty win, so there's still no reason to believe. But this is a big test going up against a big team in your division, a team that won the division last year and was the number 1 overall seed in the AFC. And you got to beat them. I don't want to hear about T. Higgins' future. I don't want to hear about Jamar Chase not getting a contract. You know, them no longer having Joe Mixon and Moss, and look at the performance Brown had last week. You know, this defense, I don't even know what to expect out of this defense. Because in week 2, that defense was phenomenal up against Mahomes. How Trey Hendrickson didn't win that game, it's almost criminal and a disservice to Trey Hendrickson. But since then, you know, they didn't really get it. I know they only allowed 16 points to the Patriots in week 1, but they didn't get a rush on this Patriots offensive line, which is garbage. And then up against the Commanders, I know Jaden Daniels is a really good quarterback, and I believe he's the franchise quarterback for the Commanders. But they made Jaden Daniels look like he was a 10-year pro that has already made 8 first-team All-Pro seasons and already has 3 Super Bowls under his belt. And up against Carolina, they won the game. That's the objective. But it wasn't like I was blown away by that defensive performance by the Cincinnati Bengals. So this is a game where it's a great measuring stick for the Bengals. Because we look at the Bengals, and the Bengals are the team that even after this sloppy start, the Bengals are a team that they're 1-3 and people are still believing in them. Because it's a belief based off things that have happened in the past where they have been the team that has played Kansas City the best. Okay? That's what it is. But that belief level and that benefit of the doubt quickly fades away when you don't turn it around. And here's what I know about Baltimore. They're going to be able to run the ball, and there will be moments to vertically throw the ball down the field, whether you hit Likely or Zay Flowers or if Mark Andrews could catch the ball, but they're going to try to beat you up not knowing where the football is going to go between Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry and how tough that is to defend that 1-2 punch. But Baltimore has the capability of scoring a lot of points. So when you look at Cincinnati, and usually these AFC North games that are tight, Cincinnati's defense has an opportunity to show us, hey, we're more of the defense up against Kansas City than we've been up against, than the way that we displayed we were in week 3 up against the Commanders. Because there will be a moment in this game where the Ravens get the ball in the end zone. Like if you walk into this game and say, no, the Ravens are not going to score a touchdown, I got a bridge to sell you, all right? After the show, just meet me right outside the studio. I'll get all the paperwork done. Just make sure you bring me the cash. I'll take the cash, and then I'll bring you back the paperwork in about an hour from now. So the Ravens have the capability of putting up a lot of points. So I got to see this Lou Anarumo defense, which has been really the only defense to have the code to solve Mahomes, start solving the code against other teams. And then for Joe Burrow, I know you're not 100%, but all those excuses are out the window. This is a Ravens defense. It's not as great as it's been in years past. I know you have to change the defense coordinator, but it's still a good Ravens defense. And this Ravens defense and this Ravens team, going into the season, I think a lot of people, I had them being my pick coming out of the AFC to win the Super Bowl. But I think a lot of people looked at this Ravens team going into the season, they're like, yeah, they're going to be good, but I'm not going to believe in them because we just believed in them last year and they had that great regular season and it didn't even get them to go to the Super Bowl. And as much as we talked about the Bengals' poor start, the Ravens also had a poor start too. Likely couldn't get that extra foot down, that extra toe down. And then they had that big lead up against Stu's Raiders. And then the Raiders came on back and it knocked me out of my survivor pool. But then since they, for 3 quarters, dominated the Cowboys, and then for 60 minutes just dominated the Buffalo Bills. So that's a Ravens team and a Bengals team that were in similar spots. The Ravens have turned around the narrative. Now it's up to the Cincinnati Bengals to turn around their narrative. Because the narrative that's being jammed down our throats right now is that, don't worry, this is what Cincinnati does. Don't worry, Cincinnati's going to get going. Don't worry, Cincinnati will eventually be the team that will be ready to take down the Chiefs' kingdom, and they'll dethrone Patrick Mahomes. But all that stuff in the past is obviously from previous years. So they're nice memories, they're nice thoughts, but each and every year in the NFL is a different year. So now I need to start seeing something tangible, something that I could pick up and hold on to and say, oh, a win up against the Ravens. That's something I got right here. So now I could hold on to that, crumple it up. Well, let me see what I'm crumpling up here. Hopefully I didn't just crumple up something I need in the next 50 minutes. Just the show rundown. Who needs that anyway? And you secure that right in your pocket. And you stash it away. And if they could beat the Ravens this weekend, the Bengals, I think it changes the entire Bengals season. But if they lose, I don't want to hear people on Monday saying, hey, Cincinnati has been here before. Cincinnati's now 1-4. They'll dig themselves out of this hole based off what? Because it's one thing to be 0-2. It's one thing to be 0-3. When you get to 1-4, yeah, I'm not going down into the foxhole with you at 1-4. I'm not believing that you're going to lead me out of the foxhole and get me back to my home base. Just not. I need to start seeing the Bengals of the past, the way that we talk about the Bengals, be the Bengals of the present. Because if they are not on Sunday up against the Ravens, the Bengals of the future for this season are going to be a football team that underachieves. And at the end of the year, we're going to be talking about Zach Taylor, and we're going to be talking about him potentially getting fired and T. Higgins being on a different team. Oh, well, does this give Jamar Chase out even though he's BFFs with Joe Burrow? Does this give him a way to say, okay, I'm out on Cincinnati, even though I love you, Joe, and you just got paid by the team, and I don't really like how the team toyed around with me, so now I'm going to go elsewhere. I'm going to go to a bigger market. There's a lot on the line for Cincinnati this year. And you hate to be that team that was dubbed the team, and you don't get that trophy. So this weekend, you can look at all the matchups. To me, the Bengals season is on life support. But there's still hope. You didn't get a diagnosis of, hey, you're definitely done. But when we look at the Bengals, if they spend another week in the loser column, and it be this weekend up against the Ravens, I can't give you, even though I'm trying to be optimistic today, and all happy-go-lucky today. On Monday, you will not be getting an optimistic Zach Gelb when it comes talking to the Cincinnati Bengals. So, Stu, I'll ask you this. I usually have a feel in all these games. I usually have an opinion. My opinion is the Bengals have to win the game. My opinion isn't they will win the game, though. Like, this is one of those games, and I hate to be that dude on the radio that goes, oh, it's a coin flip, because that's like boring radio that I hate. But this is a game where if you ask me it 15 times this week, one day or 1 hour, I'll tell you it's the Ravens. The next hour, I'll tell you that it's the Cincinnati Bengals. I think this is the toughest game to predict this weekend. If you put a gun to my head, I would not feel good about whatever answer I give you. But I'm going to say it's the Bengals because they need it more. And also, isn't it just the NFL? The Ravens now, everyone's kind of stroking them. Oh, look what they just did. They blew out the Buffalo Bills. Primetime spot. It's awesome. It's phenomenal. It's sensational. And then usually that team, when you go up against a good team, even though they haven't played like a good team this year in the Cincinnati Bengals, that team finds a way to kind of put a dent in the armor of the way that we just talked up the Ravens for the entirety of the week. So, gun to my head, begrudgingly, wouldn't feel good about it. I would take the Cincinnati Bengals. How about you?
I think the Ravens.
Okay.
I just get these weird vibes from the Bengals. And I know they're at home. I know, like what you just said, like they need the game more. The Ravens coming off that big win Sunday night. But I just have such weird vibes about this team right now. And they'll probably get to a point where they're in contention for the playoffs. Even at 1-4, they could still, crawl their way back. But I don't know. I just have a feeling the Ravens are going to win this one.
It does seem funky.
Yeah.
There are some funky vibes around the Bengals, but I still feel like the majority of the world believes, like the majority of football fans believe, that they're going to find a way to be there or be close in striking distance of the finish line at the end of the year with the chance to be the first person to cross that finish line. And with what I've seen so far, I can't go there. Because, like, the first 4 weeks of the season, if things don't go the way that it plays out, okay, you could still permeate that belief that things will turn around. Once you get through week 5 and you show me 5 weeks of more you being a bad football team than a good football team, I'm not going to sit here and then all of a sudden say, oh, yeah, now this is a team that I still believe in. No, you then lose my belief. So Cincinnati better get the job done this weekend, or to me, season is over. That's the way that I look at it. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. We will take a timeout. Pat McCarthy will join us on the other side as a Mets radio announcer, also someone that I've known since my time working in the Princeton area. How about that? And he's also a big NFL fan, so he'll join us for NFL picks next. But first, football is back, and what better way to celebrate than winning some cash with Sleeper Picks? Sleeper Picks is a fantasy game, but you can win real money. Just pick more or less and at least 2 player stats, and if your picks are right, you win. You can pick up to 8 players to win up to 100 times your money. Sleeper has a couple huge offers to kickstart the football season. For new users, Sleeper will match your first deposit with up to $100 credit to your account. And if you've already played, Sleeper's got discounted player projections for you every week of the season. So download the Sleeper app now and use promo code SCORE, that's S-C-O-R-E, and your first deposit will be doubled with a credit up to $100. What are you waiting for? Download Sleeper today and use code SCORE for a credit up to $100 match on your first deposit. That's code SCORE. Must be 18 years in most states and in state where it is legal. Promo code and other restrictions apply. Visit sleeper.com. Please wager responsibly. Gambling problem, call 1-800-426-2537 for help. Paid for by Blitz Studios.
You're in a 4-minute break. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
You're listening to the Zach Gelb Show.
I've known Pat McCarthy for a bunch of years, actually going back to when he was at Princeton, which he's still a part of that program. And I was doing a local AM radio show in a station that doesn't even exist anymore in a sports format called 920 AM The Jersey. And obviously I know Pat's father, Tom, who actually got me the job at 920 The Jersey, and I didn't even know about it because he recommended me for the job. And then when I went into interview, they're like, oh, you got a really nice recommendation. I'm like, I didn't even give you my references yet. And it was Tom McCarthy who actually recommended me for that job because I guess he did that job many, many years ago when he was first getting started. Now Pat is a superstar on the Mets Radio Network on Mets Radio 880. And he's also still a huge sports fan outside of Major League Baseball, so he'll do NFL picks with us today. But Pat, man, that was something last night. You know, I've hit a wall now during the show, and I know it's probably worse for you because I actually could go to sleep. You had to get on the flight back. But, geez, I didn't go to bed. I don't even know. I want to say like 2 in the morning. And then the last segment, I'm sitting here, and I'm like, uh-oh, the eyes are starting to shut because I didn't get much sleep last night. But that was really something with the Mets.
Yeah, Zach, it was insane. And I got to Philadelphia around 4 o'clock in the morning. That's when the team probably landed. And I'm sitting there and I was going to come home either way. And I'm like, man, I'm so wired at this point. I feel like I should just go home right now rather than get any kind of shut-eye. I did decide to get about 2 hours before I trained home this morning. But either way, it's been one unbelievable ride for this team. And I think last night was just the perfect way for this run to continue, because I talked with Sean Manaea about this yesterday in the clubhouse, that it just wasn't right that the season was going to end on a 2-0 shutout on a couple of home runs by Jake Bauers and Sal Frelick. Like, that just, there's no way that that's how this season was supposed to end. So for Pete to come up in that situation and hit that home run in what could have very likely been his last at-bat as a New York Met, it's pretty special.
Yeah, and I'm going to be honest, like, I'm a huge Pete Alonso fan. I've been trying to support him all throughout the season. I kind of feel like I've been a defender. When you had the drop ball last night, and I've always highlighted how better of a fielder he is than he gets credit for, and you've seen some of the other at-bats, I'm like, that's it for Pete. Like, the Mets aren't going to pay in this offseason. This is going to be it. And when he hit that home run, oh, man, I let out a scream in my apartment that I think I probably got a noise complaint for it when I get back to my apartment later today, because I was just going nuts. And then I literally froze up because I was so excited. I just could not speak after that and basically blacked out for the rest of the game. And to be clear, I was completely sober. I was sober, but I emotionally blacked out. So when you see Pete get into the box, we all know it's now or never for Alonso. What's on the line? When that ball goes over the right field wall and you know that it's now Mets 3, Brewers 2 in a swing of a bat, how did you kind of process it?
Yeah, so I was in the back of the booth in Milwaukee with our engineer, Chris Majkowski, and I had to get set up to go downstairs just in case anything happened, but I wasn't going to do it unless there was an actual opportunity there. I wasn't going to get my hopes up. And because for game 2, I was all prepared. I had all of my wet clothes on to go downstairs and celebrate. And I'm like, all right, I got to reverse this jinx a little bit. So as soon as Brandon Nimmo got the base hit, I'm like, okay, something's starting to brew here. So I went to the back of the booth, went into my suitcase, started pulling out my wet clothes, and I just look up right before the pitch comes in, and he hits it, and I just yelled, "Get legs!" As soon as the ball left his bat. And then at that point, I threw on my headset, got on my mics and my packs ready to go, and I sprinted out of the booth. And Steve Gelbs and I we just met in the press box, and the two of us just beelined down to the basement area so that we could get onto the field as fast as we could. It was a surreal moment, but it was the perfect moment.
And obviously the Mets go on to win the game. Peterson comes in 7 pitches, and then they're going to Philadelphia, or they're making their way back to New York, and then they'll go to Philadelphia. What was that flight like on the way back? Just wondered if you could give us a little insight.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. I know the video has been circulating of that they played Howie's call over the PA system in and Howie got up. Everybody cheered for him, and he and Pete embraced in the back of the plane. It was pretty special. But at the same time, it was kind of business as usual because I think this team is exhausted. I think that they need this off day because who wouldn't be tired emotionally, physically after the run that they've went on? So it wasn't anything. It wasn't insane. It wasn't any. It wasn't the stories of the '86 Mets trashing the back of the plane or anything like that. They had a good time. They all hung out, but it was definitely business as usual. But it was a very, very happy flight. People weren't really sleeping. I don't know how you could, even if you tried. A lot of smiles, a lot of laughs, and I just think they're all just ready for this ride to continue.
And when I go back and watch all these replays, Pat McCarthy, you see the scream that Pete lets out originally. And Pete hasn't wavered the entire season. He wouldn't admit that he's feeling the pressure and that it's getting to him. But that one swing of a bat, I think it just took the monkey off his back. And now that the Mets are still playing, I don't know if they'll win this series up against Philadelphia, but now I have a dangerous amount of confidence that Pete Alonso is coming to play and he's coming to smash in Philly.
Yeah, and I think it has to be a massive relief off Pete's back because, as you said, no matter what happens the rest of the way, he had his moment. And nobody can take that moment away from him. He stepped up in what was the biggest at-bat in his Mets career, and he came through. Pete's not going to tell you that this has been a disappointing season because that's just not Pete's personality. But everybody knows it's not the season that Pete had hoped for, not the way that he wanted to potentially go out if this is his last turn with the New York Mets. But he stepped up, and now I think he can kind of play free. I would hope that this is just a massive load off his shoulders, and now he can go out in Philadelphia and have a lot of fun and have some success and help this team get to the National League Championship Series.
For you personally, we know your dad has been the voice of the Mets in the past, but he is known as being the TV voice and the TV guy for the Philadelphia Phillies and NBC Sports Philadelphia. You now have crafted out and carved out a little cool role here, being a part of this Mets booth as well. For you personally and your family, what is this series like with now, I guess, your dad's Phillies and the Mets that you broadcast going up against one another?
Yeah, I will say my family has been very supportive during this entire thing. It's been actually really cool for that. They've all watched every single game. And I mean, it's no secret. They're all Phillies fans.
Yeah.
And the fact is they have hung on every single pitch and they've been loving every second of it. I think my wife is the one that's more conflicted than anybody as she's starting to make the full-on transition into being a Mets fan. But it's been a lot of fun right now, and we've had some pretty cool experiences over the last 3 years now, whether that was when I was working with him in the Phillies broadcast booth or last year when I first got the Mets job. We had London this year. I just think this is going to be a completely different animal heading into this series. I'm going to enjoy every second of it because, Zach, you know this, that it's such a unique opportunity to share this type of passion with your dad, and I'm just going to soak up every moment of it.
It's going to be awesome, and it would also be great if you're able to tell your dad at the end of the series, I'm going to broadcast in the NLCS. You've got enough of those dads. Let me go have my moment now. That's what I'm hoping for.
Exactly.
Yeah. So Pat McCarthy is here with us. Now we will get to some NFL picks. Stu, hit the music.
It's time for NFL picks on the Zach Gelb Show.
Alrighty, so we do a few minutes talking about the crazy Met game last night with Pat McCarthy. Now let's get to NFL picks. Pat, I will let you go first here. What's the first game that you look at and the spread that you want to go with this week?
All right, Zach, I have to be honest with you. I have not really paid attention to the NFL at all this season.
Well, you know what? I need the help because the guest pickers have been kicking my ass, so I hope you are 0-3. That's what I hope.
All right, good. So I did my best to try and get some picks that I thought would come through. So I'm going to go with the Browns plus 3.5 against the Commanders. Now, I know that Jaden Daniels has been playing at an MVP caliber level over the last couple of weeks, but I just think at a certain point he's just going to have to come down back to earth, and And Deshaun Watson played pretty well last week, so I do think that the Browns are going to give the Commanders a little bit of a scare there. We'll go Raiders plus 3.5 at the Broncos. And then the final one will go Bears -4 against the Panthers. Number one, I think Caleb Williams is just going to continue to get better as the season goes along, as he gets more snaps. He's got so many weapons on the outside. I do think eventually they're going to get DeAndre Swift going. And I mean, the Panthers right now, there's so much turmoil going on right there. And I don't know how long Andy Dalton can kind of keep things going in that position. So those are the picks that we're going to go with.
All righty. So Pat McCarthy's going to go with the Browns plus 3.5, the Raiders plus 3.5, and the Bears -4. And I actually have someone here, Pat, that wants to say hello to you. So can that mystery person that's sitting to my left that I don't think got in the shot yet say hello to one Pat McCarthy?
Long time no speak.
Ack, what's up, brother?
How are you?
How are you,
Good to
my
hear
friend?
your voice again and see you as well. You have
we
recovered
talked down the line
nicely from
enough.
that. You have recovered nicely from the locker room last night. Pat handling the post game in the locker room, and did you get doused a lot?
You know, I stayed dry yesterday, Ack. I don't know how it happened. I fully prepared. I got soaked in Atlanta, just absolutely drenched, and I was not prepared. So 2 days ago in Milwaukee, I went to a TJ Maxx and I found a $16 like Quicksilver like raincoat style thing.
Yeah.
And what a steal. $120 originally priced. I got it for $16. Shout out to TJ Maxx. And I didn't even need it. Ridiculous.
You know what? You play-by-play guys, you're such snobs. Go into the locker room. You get doused in champagne.
No, I'm with him on that.
It's not the end of the world.
Yeah,
I've done it before.
But you got to get on the plane soaked. You have to have a change of clothes. You're still, the champagne gets sticky. I'm with Pat on this one. You got to stay dry. You got to stay clean.
All right, Pat, once the responsibilities were done, though, and you got to celebrate a little bit, what was the celebration like for one Pat McCarthy? Did you drink a little bit? Did you have a little smoke or something on the plane? Like, what were we doing?
Well, those that know me know that I am a very, very big IPA person. So I got on the plane last night. I had a nice Voodoo Ranger, and then honestly, I fell asleep. So no, I only had one last night. I got a fresh keg of Oktoberfest downstairs, though, that I'm sure I'm going to tap into tonight on the off night.
Gotcha. All righty. So once again, Pat McCarthy's picks are Browns plus 3.5, Raiders plus 3.5, Bears -4. I'll go quickly on my picks right now. Raiders plus 3.5. I'm there with Pat as well. Chiefs laying 5.5, and the Steelers laying 2.5 points. Pat, enjoy the NLDS. We'll be listening to you and also Keith Rad and the great Howie Rose. And also our guy Ack from time to time
I'm
as well.
done unless till further notice.
You never know. I hear some things are in
Never
the
know.
works. You never know.
Hey, I stay ready like David Peterson coming out of the bullpen,
That's exactly right.
Pat, appreciate it. Thank you.
Zach, anytime, my friend. Thank you.
You got it. There he is, Pat McCarthy, joining us on the show. So I haven't talked to you yet about this game. I've been avoiding you on purpose all day. So
I just thought that was normal, standard operating procedure.
No. What time did you? Well, no, you weren't here yesterday.
No,
you
I
were
was. I did. I
You were
did
doing the
post game
Mets.
with Pat. Yeah.
Yeah. So you were here doing the post game upstairs, right?
No. I was at home doing the post.
Oh, you were okay. So you were at home. Kind of take me through how you processed everything.
I had something ready to go because, look, you're 3 outs away from the end of the season.
Had the eulogy written.
Yeah, you have no choice. I mean, you have because you maybe have 5, maybe 7.5 minutes once that game is done to put the whole season into perspective around that game. So, look, I started to feel a little different after Lindor walked because you just had the feeling like you didn't necessarily think it was going to play out the way it did. But you say, they have a chance here. They have a chance to get something going. You have the tying run at the plate, one swing, and especially where the Mets have played this year, all it takes is one swing. So it's a 2-0 game at that point. But I was ready, and my part of my lead was the Mets' success this year was a microcosm of their season, as was their shortcomings. Mm-hmm. And, squandering opportunities that put them in the position they were in the final week and final day of the season. And the other part of it is you look at so many pitchers on their pitching staff, they're free agents to be, and obviously Pete Alonso. So, what's the future like, even though you kind of have faith in what David Stearns has done so far.
So I'll make it a mission, and I did something last night that I've never done before. I usually wait for the game to end to use my commentary to get it out on social media. But when it was 2-0, I was so down in the dumps, and I was in the 8th inning I did this. In between the top of the 8th and the bottom of the 8th,
Yep.
I just recorded like a quick 45-second video, so I had it ready to go when the game ended, so I could put it out on my Twitter page. And it was like Quintana showed up, Lindor showed up as he has all season long, but outside of that, and I did the oh my God, play off the whole OMG thing. It was a disaster for everybody else. And as much as I love Pete Alonso, I said this in the video, he kind of showed you why he shouldn't be brought back at a ridiculous price tag, and he's expendable. And then I talked about how it was a positive season and that they're going to build from here and Steve Cohen will go out there and spend. I had that video recorded. And then...
Did it make air?
No. No.
Did it slip out somehow?
It was in the drafts.
Yeah.
It was in the drafts. It was stashed in the drafts. And then, to your point, you said you got excited when Lindor got on. When Lindor got on, I said, okay, good job.
Yeah, I would. I just felt at that point. You lead off walk and 2-out walks are just the worst.
When Nimmo, because how many times either in game 2 or 3 they had guys on base and they couldn't get him home. When Nimmo hit that ball and they were 1st and 3rd, I'm like, all right, it's 1st and 3rd, 1 out. I didn't think they were going to win. I didn't even think they were going to tie it, but it enters your mind. If Nimmo steals and gets the second, with 1 out, you just need a single to tie the game, and at least they have life. So I went from being buried in my couch to at the edge of my seat.
Well, the other thing, too, to your point.
And that's when I started to believe.
To your point, when you have 1st and 3rd, number one, you're with the guy on 3rd, you're not going to put one in the dirt because if it gets away.
Yeah, you're going to get something to hit.
One run comes home. And Nimmo on first base is a very good base runner and has speed. So if there's something close, he's going.
Did you see the John Boy whole mashup online?
On Devin Williams?
Yeah.
I didn't get I saw parts of it, but I was looking for more.
So I watched the entire thing. Mm-hmm. You see some people in the Mets dugout talking and saying stuff to Pete and things like that. I guess the whole video, I watched the entire thing. The off-speed pitch, it was either higher or lower in his glove. I forget what it was, but it was obvious that the glove was it looked bigger for one or the other was fastball or off-speed. And I think the Mets kind of, even though it was so small and I'm watching, I'm like, how the heck can anyone catch on to this? It seems so incremental. That always
amazes me.
But it's that little thing. And then you see John Boy who reads the lips, in the dugouts, some guy walked up to Pete and he was like, he went like this. He raised his hand and lower his hand, and it kind of lines up with what he's saying. I don't know if it's true, but it makes sense to me. Tipping the pitches a little bit.
I'm always amazed at the subtle nuances that teams can pick up about guys tipping pitches. Yeah. It's really incredible. But speaking of incredible, what an incredible finish.
It is. So you've been doing, that's why you haven't been here for a lot of the week. You've been doing the pre and the post.
Part of it, yeah. That's part of it.
And what happens now? Just no NLDS?
Well, my contributions are based on whether or not they're when they leave town. So on getaway days, they have to leave so quickly. There's not enough time to finish the post game show. That's why I take over those duties. But in this case, on Monday and yesterday, Pat was going to be in the locker room, so they needed somebody to
an anchor.
Yeah, they need kind of somebody to go back and forth.
I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go to bat for you, Ak. I'm gonna go scream at Ray Martell and say, "Let's go! Home games, get access to the stadium."
I've been at a couple home games this year. I mean, that's on getaway days, but still.
If you recall, there was, I think, the last time the Mets were in the postseason.
22.
Our buddy Ryan Hickey's parents.
That's right. We met at Citi Field.
We're huge fans and are huge fans of Ak. That they were kind of fanboy and fangirling over Richard Ackerman inside of the stadium, outside the stadium.
I was the third Hickey child.
Hey, some of the vacations they go on, that's not a bad
idea. That's right, exactly. That's what I'm bucking for.
All righty, we'll come on back with a news brief to wrap up shop. It is the Zach Gelb Show. Update time. Here he is, the Ak Man, Rich Ackerman.
Infinity Sports Network. Sports Flash.
Well, baseball takes a break today in a pair of games in the top 25 tonight in college football. UNLV is ranked for the first time in the program's history. The Runnin' Rebels will host Syracuse. Barry Odom has his team at 4-0 and is averaging 283 rushing yards per game. But the UNLV head coach said they could be more lethal.
I think that we've made progress in a number of areas. We have to continue to improve to get where we want to be. I think we can be an explosive offense, but we got a long ways to go. We got a lot of work to do.
The Orange come in at 3-1. Also tonight, number 6 Oregon goes for its 5th straight win to open the season against Michigan State. The Spartans are 3-2, coming off losses to Boston College and Ohio State. The Padres' Joe Musgrove is done for the playoffs with a torn elbow ligament. He'll undergo Tommy John surgery and miss next year too. The Twins are in the market for a new GM, parting ways with Thad Levine after 8 years. The Texans, winners of 3 of their first 4, not expected to have Joe Mixon Sunday due to an ankle injury. Ed Oliver is out for the Bills, as is Austin Johnson. Malik Neighbors out due to a concussion, and Jonathan Taylor also sitting out because of a high ankle sprain. I'm Rich Ackerman.
This is the Infinity Sports Network. Follow us on Instagram. Our handle is Infinity Sports Network. That's Infinity Sports Network to follow us on Instagram.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. 1 minute remaining. $45 seconds remaining. $30 seconds remaining. $15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Hey, this is Howie. And this is Nick from the Backstreet Boys. And you're listening to the Zach Gelb Show. And guess what? Zach is back. All right.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
Oh, my God, we're back again.
All right, it's time to answer Ask the Pros question of the day, and it's brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Bella B in Calgary says, Hi, Zach. When you were 7 years old, what did you think your dream job would be? Thanks, Bella B in Calgary. Hashtag Ask the Pros, hashtag ATP. You can submit a question by tweeting at INFSportsEt or at Zach Gelb using the hashtag Ask the Pros. Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for your car care needs. Get guaranteed low prices and excellent customer service from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Well, I thought my dream job was going to be a radio host. So, a sports radio host. That's what I wanted to be, and that's what it turned out to be. So, we'll see what else has in store for us, but that was my dream job when I was 7 years old. The only other job I aspired to be as a child before I wanted to become a radio host, and this was at like a kindergarten graduation, there would be like moments where in the graduation they were like, oh, like little Johnny wants to be a firefighter and little Mary wants to be a nurse. And they said, and little Zach, they were talking about me, I was never little, he wants to be a barber. That's what I said. I said I wanted to be a barber when I was in kindergarten, and not like a tiki barber or a ronde barber. I'm talking about someone that cuts hair. So that was the first thing, and then I eventually said sports talk radio host. All righty, without further ado, I'm not talking about Freddie Adu. It's time to update you some of the biggest storylines in the world of sports with some audio. Let's get to a quick news brief.
Time for your daily news brief. We get you caught up on the rumors, reports, and reconnaissance from the day in sports.
Oh, I also went on like a 3-month thought of wanting to also be a teacher, too. That was another thing. Here is Pete Alonso, courtesy of ESPN, on the ESPN, on his game-winning home run last night.
It was unreal. I mean, that's what you practice in the backyard in those scenarios like that. You're in the playoffs, guys on base, down 2 or down a certain amount of runs. Man, it's unbelievable. I'm just so excited to celebrate with my team. So happy for this organization, man. Everyone's worked so hard this year. Oh man, this has been unreal. What a ride.
And we go from euphoria to just misery. Here's the other side of this. The skip of the Milwaukee Brewers, Pat Murphy, and the loss to the Mets in the postseason.
It felt like a tragedy. And, I feel sad for our guys because they competed like they did. And it was, but it's baseball. When you're facing a team with those type of guys, that's what they're capable of.
That's right. That's what we're capable of, and that's what the Mets did. Here is Aaron Rodgers on Davante Adams, his former teammate, wanting another trade. A lot of people speculating that Davante Adams is going to wind up with the JTS Jets and his old pal, Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, I mean, the grass is green where you water it. There's the fear-mongering that goes along with the adage that the grass is not always greener on the other side, but grass is green where you water it. You put the time in, you put intention and attention to whatever you're doing, and you can make a special situation out of being anywhere.
Stu, can you translate that for me?
No, there's no shot I could translate that.
Okay. It's like saying, hey, he said the grass isn't always greener on the other side. Is that what he said?
Yeah.
So that's leaving Green Bay, but
I guess that's
you also left Green Bay, so now it's like, oh, okay, you get away from me. Now we could come back together and be one again, I guess, is what I'm trying to throw blindfolded darts on a dartboard, trying to hit on a dartboard.
Stop trying to figure out what Rodgers is trying to say.
Give me some ayahuasca, though, after hearing that. I'm just kidding. Here is Deion Sanders, Coach Prime, on Nightcap with Shannon Sharp and Chad Ochocinco. Deion Sanders wants Shador to go to the Dolphins.
See, I'm being a father now. I'm not a coach. Okay, so there's a situation looming in Miami right now.
Right.
That, okay, Tua out for what, two more weeks after this?
2 more weeks, yeah. About 3 more.
So what would that record possibly look like in 3 weeks? And if he warrants another concussion, that's got to be all she wrote that we praying that don't happen. It's got to be, even right now, we're like, I don't know.
Right.
What should he do, or what should the Miami Dolphins do? Do you go into the draft and take a quarterback, which is what I'm saying, or do you say, Tua, let's check this out, let's see what we're going to do? Is his health more important than that?
Let's say because of the Tua injury and things don't work out, and it leaves an open door, and they make a business decision and go into the draft, and boom, Shador to the Dolphins. Look at that. See how God works?
So you just got the revelation, huh?
Hey, you see how God works?
That's why he brought it up. That's why he brought it up, Ocho.
Hey, you see how God works?
He think he just thought of it. Don't tell him. Let him think he just thought of it.
I kind of get it. I do. Now, will the Dolphins be in that bad of a spot to go get a player like Shador Sanders in the top 10? I guess if Tua doesn't come back. But I think Tua's coming on back, but they just paid Tua Tagovailoa, and I don't think Tua's retiring. So I can understand drafting a quarterback, but if you draft a quarterback, that's basically the start of the end to the Tua Tagovailoa era. And I don't think Chris Greer and Mike McDaniel are going to be the guys to do that. But I get why Coach Prime would want his son to go to Miami. Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle. Enough said. That's all you need to say. All righty, that is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. Big thanks to Stu. Big thanks to Mike for producing this extravaganza today. And a big thanks to each and every one of you for listening all throughout the week. We will be back on Monday in this time slot at 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific. I would also be on the radio if you want to tune in tomorrow on WFAN in New York from 9 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. Eastern time. Don't blink. You may miss it. And then on Sunday, I'll be back here on the Infinity Sports Network from 10 a.m. to noon Eastern time, getting you ready for Week 5 of the NFL season, also recapping college football. We'll talk to you then, Saturday, Sunday, also at Monday, right at 3 p.m. Eastern. We out. Bye-bye. Peace.